All right. On your marks, get set, go. Good morning, Bitcoin. Today is Sunday, January 3rd, 2021. The price of Bitcoin is even at 32,943, with a high of 34,873 and a low of 30,600. That's $1 for 3,030 Satoshis. Very close to the 3,000 Satoshi barrier. Volume is at 24,664 Bitcoins traded. Bitcoin dominance is at 69.3%. The market continues to lean long with 86% of Bitcoiners heading that direction. Today is January 3rd, 2021. But back on January 3rd, 2009, I want to say, there it is, Bitcoin was born. Today is Bitcoin's birthday, the Genesis block day. A Genesis block is the first block of a blockchain. Modern versions of Bitcoin number it as block 0, though very early versions counted it as block 1. A Genesis block is almost always hard-coded into the software of the applications that utilize its blockchain. It is a special case that does not reference a previous block. And for Bitcoin, and almost all of its derivatives, it produces an unspendable subsidy. Main network Genesis block. Here is a representation of the Genesis block as it appeared in a comment in an old version of Bitcoin. Line 1613. The first section defines exactly all of the variables necessary to recreate the block. The second section is in the block in standard print block format, which contains shortened versions of the data in the first section. Hash. The hash of the Genesis block has 2 more leading hex zeros than were required for an early block. Coinbase. The Coinbase parameter, seen above in hex, contains, along with the normal data, the following text: The Times, 03 Jan 2009. Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. This was probably intended as proof that the block was created on or after January 3rd, 2009, as well as a comment on the instability caused by fractional reserved banking. Additionally, it suggests that Satoshi Nakamoto may have lived in the United Kingdom. This detail, second bailout for banks, could also suggest the fact that a supposedly liberal and capitalist system rescuing banks like that was a problem for Satoshi. The chosen topic could have a meaning about Bitcoin's purpose. Block reward. The first 50 Bitcoin block reward went to address 1A1Z. Though this reward can't be spent due to a quirk in the way that the Genesis block is expressed in the code. It is not known if this was done intentionally or accidentally. It is believed that other outputs sent to this address are spendable, but it is unknown if Satoshi Nakamoto has the private key for this particular address, if one existed at all. Timestamp. Although the average time between Bitcoin blocks is 10 minutes, the timestamp of the next block is a full 6 days after the Genesis block. One interpretation is that Satoshi was working on Bitcoin for some time beforehand and the Times front page prompted him to release it to the public. He then mined the Genesis block with a timestamp in the past to match the headline. It is also possible that since the block's hash rate is so low, he may have spent 6 days mining it with the same timestamp before proceeding to block 1. The pre-net hypothesis suggests that the Genesis block was solved on January 3rd, but that the software was tested by Satoshi Nakamoto using that Genesis block until January 9th, when all the test blocks were deleted and the Genesis block was reused for the main network. This is what the Genesis block looks like in hex. You can see on the right side, the readable section, times 03 Jan 2009. Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. And that was the Wikipedia entry on Genesis block. Today is January 3rd, 2021. Happy birthday, Bitcoin. According to Google, people also ask, is Bitcoin a good investment? You can easily trade Bitcoin for cash or assets like gold with incredibly low fees. The high liquidity associated with Bitcoin makes it a great investment vessel if you're looking for short-term profits. Digital currencies may also be a long-term investment due to their high market demand. Sounds mixed. What is a Bitcoin and how does it work? Each Bitcoin is basically a computer file which is stored in a digital wallet app on a smartphone or computer. People can send Bitcoins or part of one to your digital wallet, and you can send Bitcoins to other people. Every single transaction is recorded in a public list called the blockchain. Not perfect, but passable, good enough. What will Bitcoin be worth in 2030? Just 4.8% of respondents believe that a single Bitcoin is going to be worth $500,000 by 2030. But the optimists are outnumbered by the 11.8% who think it will have crashed below $1,000. And overall, just 18.6% of investors are confident that Bitcoin's price will exceed $50,000. Will Bitcoin ever die? The reward will continue to have every 4 years until the final Bitcoin has been mined. In actuality, the final Bitcoin is unlikely to be mined until the year 2140. However, it's possible that the Bitcoin network protocol will be changed between now and 2140. Can I invest $100 with Bitcoin? That said, you can invest as little as a few dollars into an asset like Bitcoin. So you can buy a few fractions of Bitcoin up to $100 and more, and you'll be building your portfolio. I like that. How much should I buy in Bitcoin? Yes, how much should I invest in Bitcoin? According to this website, it says their opinion is somewhere around 5% to 30% of your investment capital. The author of this piece here considers 5% to be very safe and 30% to be pretty risky. Most of the time, this person here sits between 15 and 50%. Interesting investment advice from Google, from the website Crypto Maniacs with a K, not investment advice. Is Bitcoin legal? This is a good question. I'm going to need a sip of tea here. As earlier discussed, Bitcoin as a medium of payment has neither been authorized nor has been regulated by any central authority in India. The Supreme Court of India has in its ruling on 25th February 2019 required the government to come up with cryptocurrency regulation policies. So it looks like you should check based upon your region if you want to find out if Bitcoin is legal for you. How do I cash out Bitcoin? Websites like Coinbase and Cash App allow you to sell Bitcoin for cash, which you can then withdraw into your bank account. You may pay fees and may have to prove your identity to use these websites. How many Bitcoins are left? How many Bitcoins are there in circulation? There are currently around 18 million Bitcoins in existence. That number changes every 10 minutes when new blocks are mined. Right now, a new block every 10 minutes adds 6.25 Bitcoins into circulation. So remember, 18 million Bitcoins have been printed. What's the total number of Bitcoin? 21 million. So 18 of the 21 are currently in circulation. Thanks to everybody for joining us. We're just getting started here on our Bitcoin birthday celebration featuring you, the audience. Thanks to the 28 viewers for joining us live. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe down below. We have 11 likes. Remember, YouTube judges these videos by likes. We are all servants of the YouTube algorithm. So if you want to help us fight the algorithm, give us a like down below. We're just warming up here. And it's kind of interesting what Google thinks about these questions. Google didn't used to care at all about Bitcoin. We were talking to Martine just the other day about this, and he said, yeah, I think when you search for Bitcoin on Google, it would say, do you mean bit of coin? What do you mean Bitcoin? So what will Bitcoins be worth in 2025? With the Bitcoin price expected to reach 100,000 or is up to $1 million per Bitcoin, it's never too late to get started trading Bitcoin. It says in 2021, these are forecasts and predictions. They believed it would be 25,000 in 2021. Well, they're just really close on that. They thought the low, though, would be 5,000. So wild ride. They also think in 2022 it would be 75,000. Yowza. But a low of 9,000. Oof. But by 2023 to 2025, they think 410,000 with a perhaps low of 31,000. Of course, they're just pulling these numbers out of their ass. Does Warren Buffett own Bitcoin? I do not think so. He says he does not own any cryptocurrency and never will. That's awesome. Mark that one down. Who owns the most Bitcoin? Well, of course, Satoshi Nakamoto owns over 1 million Bitcoin, worth $6 billion. I think it's worth more than that. Is one Bitcoin enough to own? It is not possible for every human on the planet to own a single Bitcoin. In fact, it never was. Most of us will only deal in Satoshi, and very few wealthy few will ever deal in Bitcoin. The value will simply be too high. Can Bitcoin reach zero? A massive Bitcoin buy would stop Bitcoin from reaching zero. Bitcoin can crash hard, but not so hard that it ends up costing zero, because one guy on Twitter says he'll buy it all. Good, very good. So at least one person will. We've got a question in the chat. Should I buy Bitcoin now or later this year? Basically, the best way to buy it is dollar cost averaging. You look at your salary, your incoming money, and you say, if I have, say, $100 to put aside each month, you just buy $100 worth on the first every month and don't worry about it. If you want to break it up more, you could buy $25 a week. This idea of slowly buying into Bitcoin means that you'll get some prices like right now where the price is very high, and some prices like 6 months ago where the price was much lower. It's very difficult because everyone just wants to buy in right now, and maybe that's a good move. No one knows. Maybe it's a bad move. But the best strategy, if you really want to be smart about it, is dollar cost averaging. You buy on a steady scale, something that you don't have to worry about, and you keep your job. Too many people. I mean, I've lost some jobs, but if you have a job that you haven't lost yet, you keep it and then you put aside that $100 or $1,000. And the way that you know you've invested too much is you're checking it all the time and you're super nervous about the moves. And the way that you know you're investing the right amount is you're just not worried about it and you're continuing your normal life. And yeah, that's not fun, but that's the difference between investing and gambling. If you want to gamble, buy it all right now, sell it all tomorrow, buy it all next week. And sometimes that's not gambling, that's day trading, and there's strategies and there's charts and triangles and things. But if you really want to just take it easy, get into Bitcoin, dollar cost averaging, buy $100 a month or $1,000 a month, whatever you can afford, and just sock it aside, get a hardware wallet, get a couple of hardware wallets, get a P.O. box to order your hardware wallet. There's more on that, but let's keep going. Oh, there's so many. We're never going to get through all these, but they're kind of fun. I don't know. Let's see what else we've got. We might go back to Bitcoin questions. We've also got Bitcoin news. From stocks to Bitcoin, investors bet that the everything rally will continue. That sounds like famous last words. That sounds like that great article where it's like, everyone's getting rich on Bitcoin except for you. Everyone except for you. Bitcoin breaks $30,000. Cryptocurrency extends eye-popping rally. Good. Social media interest in Bitcoin hits an all-time high. Oh, well, that's good. And we're fundraising here for a new laptop. We're 0.93% of the way there. We've raised 39,000 Satoshis towards our goal of 4 million Satoshis, which is something like a 0.04. So it's funny that we could see that. We're also fundraising to raise $1 million in Bitcoin. It's only 3 billion Satoshis. Someone keeps sending us messages that they want Andreas on the show. I like this trend. If you want to tip me and try to convince me to ask Andreas on the show, and he might come, you can tip now at tallyco.in/s/1 million. We have a special Tallycoin for that. You could also tip if you want me to buy a new laptop because the keyboard sucks on my current laptop. And that's not a very good reason to get a new laptop, but that's what Apple has done to us. Yesterday, I made a fun bet on Bitcoinal, the website that DJ Booth built that lets you track the seasons of Bitcoin. And I won. I won little coins on DJ Booth's site. This is Bitcoin Talk Show live on the World Crypto Network. You can join us live. You could even just help us test out the phone system. Tell us, what do you think about Bitcoin's birthday, or Proof of Keys Day, as they call it? And there are many fun birthdays and celebrations in Bitcoin now. To clarify, in the chat here, I'm checking it out. I'm tired of them too. I'm not a big holiday person, so we keep having these holidays, and I'm like, oh, another holiday. But still, we celebrate holidays because they're important, they're traditions. This is the Genesis block day. So this is the day that Satoshi saw that cool newspaper headline, and he or she or they said, let's launch this thing. And then we have one of the most interesting periods that the Wikipedia just described to me, so it's fresh in my mind, where for the next 6 days, Satoshi either mines the same block over and over again, testing Bitcoin for 6 days. It's very biblical. If you're not getting it, the apple, the garden, it's a little biblical. So 6 days, Satoshi tests Bitcoin or something. And then on the 7th day, very biblical, Satoshi launches the Bitcoin network. And that day is now. That day is, and we don't know if it was backdated, like he used the previous block, or if he just kept mining it, or whatever it was. It was in this Wikipedia. I just read it. So that's today. Today's the Genesis block. So today in 2009, young Satoshi turns on his computer, starts mining Bitcoin. I don't know the exact dates, but a little later, Hal Finney and Marnie start mining Bitcoin, start testing out the network. So this is Bitcoin's birthday, is what they're calling it now. This is the Genesis block birthday. Other people celebrate Bitcoin White Paper Day, the day when the Bitcoin White Paper was released. This is the day that Bitcoin has been mined. So there you go. Oh, wow. This sounds good. So we've got, we're just reading the chat out loud here. I guess I'll get the chat up on the screen too, but you could call now if you'd like to join us. That would be testing our system. We're 99% sure that it works today. You can call us at 1-518-600-1949. That's, I think that's 4 mad on the end, something like that, but 1949. And you could also Skype us at World Crypto Network, all one word. It's fully international there on the Skype. So you can do what you want to do. Woo, look at the chat. It's scrolling, baby. Well, it's better scrolling at other times, but we're welcoming everyone. Give us a thumbs up and a share. We're just warming up today. I've got my tea. All right, that's some good tea. The key is just put more sugar in it. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Okay, we'll get to everybody. So I just want to start at the beginning. Yo, BTC Moon Guy, what's up? Marty from New Zealand in the house. And G Willis, sup, hodlers? And we talked to 86 James. We talked about buying now or later. G Willis agrees with us. DCA since 2015. You just got a dollar cost averaging. He says it's about time in. So it's a good way to think about it. One of the things I think is so important is the halvenings. Every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin produced every 10 minutes goes down by half. It's like half the Bitcoin mines in the world are shut off. Really, it becomes that much harder to mine Bitcoin. You turn the resistance up on the treadmill every 4 years. So if you got 5 years, if you've got 5 years to invest, say $100 or $100 a month or $10 a month into Bitcoin, check back in 5 years. The theory that I'm floating is that there'll be more there. I'm not talking about percentages, and I don't know the future. I do have a magic 8-ball that predicts the future, but I don't want to do that quite yet. I want to warm everybody up first. The ball has to be hot for it to work. But I do know, and I do believe there'll be more money, or there'll be more value there in 5 years. So I'd give that a shot. You got to try what G Wills says here. G Wills, he says it's all about time in. Shout out to the Crypto Wonder podcast. Thanks for joining us. He says, love this channel, Proof of Keys Day. And what is Proof of Keys Day? Let's talk just a little bit about that before we get back to Satoshi and the blessed, glorious religious birth of Bitcoin and the 6 days of the Genesis block, the magic and the holy ritual that is Bitcoin. Proof of Keys Day is a really cool idea started by Trace Mayer. And Trace has disappeared these days, and there's a whole nother story into that. And I don't know what's going on there, but he promoted an altcoin, and then he stopped tweeting and stopped doing anything, and it's been a year. So it's just very strange. Lots of other people promote altcoins, and we don't excommunicate them. We don't push them onto a barge in the middle of the ocean. Some people do, but a lot of other people can just say, hey, he's fallen for one of those altcoins. That happens to almost everyone I know. I wonder if he'll come out of it and come back to Bitcoin. But anyway, that's the Trace story. I just feel if you hadn't heard, and I just want to tell a brief one. But Proof of Keys Day is a really cool idea that Trace had, where on every January 3rd, which is Genesis Block Day, Bitcoiners should take their money off of exchanges. They should take their money off of centralized, controlled institutions that hold your keys. You should put your keys into your hardware wallet. You should put your keys into your local Linux computer that runs the wallet. You should put your keys into a CryptoSteel wallet where you've written down the code. You should put your keys into, not a paper wallet, but these kind of things. You should own your own keys on this January 3rd, Bitcoin Genesis Block Day, Bitcoin birthday. So that was a cool idea, and I liked it. I liked Trace's idea. I think his version was a little more like, we should crash the exchanges. I think Trace kind of thought that the exchanges were dirty and they didn't have all the keys, and that his proof of keys day was a little more libertarian tsunami crashing exchanges. I wanted to show my Bitcoin is dead hoodie here. Shout out to Breaking Bitcoin in Amsterdam. Breaking Bitcoin in general, just a great conference, good times. But yeah, so everyone should crash the exchanges. Everyone should sell at the same time. They should all exit the exchanges at the same time to prove their keys. Oh, is what good old Trace used to say. It's funny, my video looks really crystal clear here, and then it comes out all fuzzy on the computer. Oh, well, we do the best we can. But yeah, so that's Proof of Keys Day. That's Genesis Block Day. That's where we are. That's what we're doing. And we're also spending this Genesis Block Day with you. If you want to join us right here, you can call us up right now at Skype, World Crypto Network, all one word, or at 1-518-600-1949. And that is a real phone number. So just call us up, say happy birthday to Bitcoin. Maybe tell us how you heard about Bitcoin. You could tell us how long you've been into it. Any kind of little story about Bitcoin would be fun. This is your channel. It's my channel. It's fuzzy and blurry. Well, we were just killing it on video. I hate this. Well, we use this Jitsi thing. It's open source and it's good, and it doesn't shut down Tiananmen Square protesters. But I don't know. Sometimes the video is not so good, or it might just be my crap upstream. I don't have a very good upstream here, so I hope that the audio is working, because that's really important. Shout out to MS BitEth in the chat. He's been chatting here for a while, and I met him at Burning Man once, so he's out there. He says he's quite wealthy from Bitcoin. All right. Since 2011. Again, see, it's all about time. He's just been in a long time. He's going to create a huge sound camp called the Bitcoin Basement of Boom, and he hopes I'll go to the burn next year. Well, I don't want to get political or virusy, but I'm not sure the burn's happening next year or maybe to another year. But I would like to return. It seems like it's been a long time since I've been to Burning Man, and I had a lot of good friends there, and I would love to go and check up on them. And that's really what it's about in the end. It's about the friends and the experiences and the people that you meet. And so that would be cool, man. I'd love to check that out. And of course, shout out to District. I remember we met at District, and he was he was in charge of recycling, which seems like a small thing, but at a big camp like District, that's a big job. There was a lot going on there. So shout out to MSBitF. I think it's Mike. Hey, 86 James says, thanks for your answer. He's got some Bitcoin and he'll keep buying dollar cost averaging, or pound cost averaging, perhaps. But it's really about the Satoshis. I resisted the Satoshi thing for a little bit, and I still kind of resist it. I'm just an old-fashioned conservative word police at heart. I resist new things. But what I resisted about is I like buy Bitcoin. I thought that was alliterative and snappy. And stack sats, that's okay. It's not as quite as good as buy Bitcoin. But I do like the idea of, oh, cool, I've got a red bar. It's like, your video is so big, it's killing the connection. Oh, YouTube. Jitsi. But what I do like about the Satoshi thing, and I don't have it up here, but there was a website that Jack, of all people, tweeted the other day, the guy who made Twitter. And he tweeted this fun website where it showed the price of $1 in Satoshi over many years. So 7 years ago, I was pretty much getting into this. You can see it was around $100,000 or 100,000 Satoshis for $1. It went up, so this actually Bitcoin price going up here, or going down, actually got cheaper. You get way more sats. And then boom, it slots right back up. And then now you see where we are now. So looking at a website like this over a really long time does kind of prove the value of this stacking sats idea. To buy something in the early days like Bitcoin, a crazy investment, to take your hard-earned money and to put it into this crazy thing, you really had to be crazy. So if you could think about it this way, that you really are, instead of just a one Bitcoin or $1 in Bitcoin, you're a 13,000 sat person. 13,000 seems like a lot more. So I think psychologically we're going to have to continue to support this sat thing and just support it, because yeah, if I had thought about my things as, this many sats, maybe I would have sold less, right? Maybe that kind of thing. But again, you sell to live. You have to live your life. So if, again, we're not hardcore hodl forever people here. We're like, hey, if you feel good about Bitcoin, like right now, everybody feels pretty good. If you got in any time in the last 6 months or before that, selling 5%, selling 10%, taking a little taste of it, paying off some credit card bills. When you feel good about it, it's never too bad. Selling when you feel bad, that feels worse. So I've been there on both sides. So you can always do both. But just anyone, if you want to call us now, you can join the conversation. Let me put this into the chat. Again, I'm not good at keeping up on these holidays either, so it's not like it was in my calendar, but I should do that. I should put this in the calendar, that I'd know about it. We should have a special Bitcoin holidays calendar or something that we could subscribe to on the Apple calendar. But yes, you can call now, join the conversation with Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word, or on the phone at 1-518-600-1949. We're keeping it going here. We have some other people that are trying to join, but they say they're putting the kids to bed. But they said it in more colorful language, like apples and oranges going to Bedfordshire, something like that. But yes, we got to check out the Bitcoin basement of boom. I hope that there is a Burning Man. It might take a while. Virus is scary and so forth. You wouldn't want anyone to be sick out there on the playa in the middle of the dry lake bed with only one road going in and out. Yes, they have helicopters, but they don't have large helicopters, and we don't want it to get to that point. But hopefully, again, we're getting political, but hopefully we'll all get the vaccine. We'll kill the virus. I'm on team human, not team virus. But let's get back to the important topic here. Kyle C says, happy birthday, Bitcoin. Thank you, Kyle. Thanks for joining. Disruptive Innovation says he'll buy your last shirt from you. So you can also get shirts at shop.worldcryptonetwork.com. We make like $5 a shirt, but it's more about people wearing cool shirts that we help to make or design. We've got a nice one about Treasures Don't Float, and we have some World Crypto Network shirts there. So we need to make more, but we also need to make more shows and do all kinds of things. So MSBitIth says that in his opinion, Bitcoin will just keep rising. He doesn't think it'll dump like in the way it used to. We're on a trajectory behind beyond the moon. It does seem that way. Even dump wise, it's always one of those things where, let's say if Bitcoin went to $50,000, well, it would dump to 20,000. And I'm like, but 20,000 is already so much more. So yeah, it might be one of those. But then again, it might go all the way down the other way. Egg's says it's time to make money on Ethereum. Ethereum, it was at $100 not too long ago. So $100 to $800 is a hell of a swing. Even $400 to $800 is a hell of a swing. Same thing I'm saying about Bitcoin. If you have the big ETH holdings, if you want to take, 5-10% off, you can always take that when you're up. It's more fun than selling 30 or 40% when you're down. So been there. Let's see. Everyone's not selling. I don't know what this guy's saying. There's too many things. But MSBitF doesn't believe in the virus, and there's not enough people dying, and he's in the funeral business. Okay, well, just more data points, more information. Either way, I just don't want to get sick, and I don't want other people to get sick. So let's all just avoid this for a while. And science is really cool. I think the vaccine's a good deal, but we'll have to, you have your own opinion on that. I'm not trying to change your opinion. You guys can have it, but I think it's going to be cool. So checking out the fundraiser. What's really neat about this is whether we reach our goal of $1 million in Bitcoin or not, we can always kind of track how much it is. Right now, it's 3 billion Satoshis, almost even for Bitcoin to $1 million. I swear just the other day it was 3.6. So things are moving quite a lot. Hopefully the left side of this gets a little bigger. But in general, I think we keep seeing like we're going to see a crossover into a whole new level of Bitcoin, which is just crazy. If you've been in it long enough, it's crazy. And, it's easy to say, I wish I had this, or I wish I had that, or I should have done this or that. But you are where you are, and it's still pretty cool. Like we were saying the other day, if you've been into Bitcoin for a couple of years, you can probably buy guacamole on your burrito. That's not bad. You can get a large coffee instead of a small. It's not the biggest or the best, but hey, there's some more there than there used to be. Checking in with the price of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is still about even, maybe up 3/4 of a point in the last 24 hours, with a last of 32,951. That's $1 for 3,035 Satoshis, just hovering on that 3,000 Satoshi barrier. Be pretty interesting if the dollar equals 1 Satoshi. That would be pretty interesting. And it's crazy to see it trend this way so quickly. Just a few weeks ago, we were talking about 15,000 Satoshi barrier, 10,000 Satoshi barrier, and then zoop, 3,000. It's crazy. With a high of 34,873 and a low of 30,600. Volume was at 24,442 Bitcoins changing hands. The Bitcoin dominance has actually gone up quite a lot. I think it was around 65, 62% a few weeks ago. And now it is 69. 69.31%. The market is still continuing long, 86% that direction. 14% short. Shout out to bitcoinal.com for providing us this seasonal price chart, complete with a leaf blower. We're kind of in the fall right here, so we need to clean up our leaves and make our Bitcoin all neat. You can even see yesterday that I bet on Bitcoin and I won. This thing right here. We have 329 coins for those of you keeping score on Bitcoinal. Checking out the chat. Let's see what's going on. Rolando reminds us to hit that like button. We've got around 60 people watching and 30 people have liked this show. Remember, liking videos is free. Doesn't mean that it's the best video in the world. It means that like the sound is good and the video is good and it's polite. And you're like, hey, that's a good thing. There should be more of that. So you like it. All right, disruptive innovation, mad Bitcoins for president. Yeah, I should get some more dun 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 music. I need more buttons. Let's see. Oh yes, people don't like the vaccine. All right. Here we go. Slice Keeper says he waited and waited for 2 years to buy ADA at 3 cents. He got his ADA and it's happy. It's worth lots of Bitcoin. So you can even make money on altcoins if you wait and you have a good price and you want it to go up. So who knows? You do what you want to do. What's the lowest price Bitcoin's gone to? It's been so long. One time it dipped to like 300. One time it dipped to 1,200. One time it dipped to 3,000. So the next dip is probably going to be, well, the recent dip was like to 23. And it was like, that's not a dip. Or it went to 33 and it went to 30. So it's been crazy. Oh, yeah. So we got a troll in the chat. Oh, that's like boring. No one wants to make 3 times on currency. Let's go with that one. Bitcoin is banned. Oh, well, don't buy it then. But that's again the point. The time to buy something is when it is banned. The time to buy something is when you can't buy it. That's always when you want it. So, let's see. April 29, you could learn for it was only 10,000 satoshis for $10. Yeah, the good old days. And you could learn and send around Bitcoin for nothing. So, just like I was saying yesterday, it's important now to learn about Bitcoin, to learn about Bitcoin, to learn how to send it around, to learn how to use it. It's not so much that you own it or you own a lot of it or it's going to make you rich. It's that you could learn how to use it and you could be the person that teaches your friends, that teaches your community, that teaches all the people that you know or the people you meet, or even some people in the future that might pay you, that you could teach them about Bitcoin. And whether you're teaching them about trading Bitcoin or using it or buying it or using it to buy something you want, that's where you're going to find value. And that's the kind of value that you can replicate. The problem with the investment value is once you've invested, you're invested. Now you have to go do something else with your time. If you want to invest and be a day trader or be a monthly trader or a long or a shorter or whatever, you can do that. And it's going to take a lot of your time and it's going to be very stressful. But it's up to you what kind of investor or person you want to be. But my point would be you can get a lot of value by learning about Bitcoin. You can get a lot of value by learning how Bitcoin works. You can get a lot of value by learning how to use Bitcoin and send it around. And I think you can make a lot of value by teaching that to others. And you can even make that kind of non-valuable value something like karmic value, something good for yourself and good for others if you work on making that kind of value. We were talking about first jobs in my other chat. I'm going to drink some tea. Let me know in the chat here, what was your first job? My first job was probably a paper route, but I hated it and I was terrible at it. And I couldn't wake up early. I would wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. to do the route, and I would be a wreck the rest of the day, useless in band, useless in school, angry, not good. So waking up early, being a newspaper delivery boy, not a mailman. Being a newspaper delivery boy was not for me. Later on, I moved on and I worked at McDonald's. And I didn't work there that long. It was kind of like a summer job. And I got the money to buy a computer and then I quit. And but the main thing there is that I learned about the value of work and what it's like for normal people and people that don't have these advantages and maybe don't have this education or haven't had the time to read all these books to get this education. So I do think a lot about that and about what people's first jobs were and if they value what they're doing and what they're making now. And if they have a real connection to what actual work is and what actual people do. Reading in my chat from my friends, they say one of them worked in a factory, in a meat processing plant, as a CAD drawing bot, door-to-door sales, tech support, lots of other jobs. And if they wanted something, they had to pay for it. So that is usually the way it is for a lot of people, and it helps you get the early value of work. And I think we need to see more of that in Bitcoin. And think of that as well as ourselves, how we can contribute to Bitcoin and contribute to this community and spread more of that value around. Right now, when everyone's up, there's a lot of talk of castles and Lamborghinis and nonsense. I think we need a lot more talk of community and how to build this up, how to teach more people about this, and how to prepare for the next wave. If we relaxed a little bit about the money side, maybe we'd have more success on the other side. And remember, if you're watching now in the chat, you can call Call now at 518-600-1949 or Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. Send this out to the guys in the chat again. See if anyone's around. It is a Sunday. It's supposed to be Big Book Day. I was going to do Big Book Day, but I was going to go get other books that aren't so big because I don't have very large books with me right now. But I was going to do highlights from other books that were big in their quality, but not big in their size. They're talking in the chat about Ethereum and if Ethereum is competing with Bitcoin. In some ways, it does. They're both cryptocurrencies, kind of, in their own way. They're really more like two products that have come out at similar times that have similar values in some ways. And the price of Ethereum is rising recently. So they're very happy about that. They are starting to regain a lot of their ground. Of course, the last time that Bitcoin was at around 19,000, Ethereum was at around 1,000. But now Bitcoin's at 30,000 or higher. And Ethereum's still below 1,000. So they're not seeing the same kind of gains, but it might be coming back. There's always kind of this ebb and flow between the two communities about this idea of whether it's Bitcoin season or whether it's altcoin season. And a lot of people root for altcoin season, and a lot of people like Bitcoin season. So it's fun to see them swing back and forth. All right, that phone thing's working. At least it worked right there. Hello, caller.
Hey, Thomas.
You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Thomas. It's Dan from Grand Rapids. How are you?
Hey, Dan. How's it going?
Good. Happy birthday, Bitcoin.
Hey,
right?
Happy birthday.
So, some of the stuff that you've been talking about, it's so similar to my story. I think you and I probably got in around the same time. I discovered it. I was fascinated with cryptography, and I started reading books about cryptography and public-private key encryption and things like that. And then I was listening to a podcast. Actually, it was a Security Now podcast. And he started talking about Bitcoin and that it used public and private keys. And I was like, I know how that works. And then I kind of dove in and I thought, okay, this thing solves the Byzantine general problem. And it's just super, super elegant the way it works. And I figured there's got to be something to this. And the other thing is over the years, I've sold more than I wish I had. I spent more than I wish I did. And I didn't buy a tenth of what I should have.
See, I think everybody feels that way and everybody has those regrets. And it's also interesting, like you said, you have to read these early books. I remember reading Cuckoo's Egg about the hackers and then the hacker crackdown, and reading 2600 magazine and reading about all this stuff. And just like, you're a kid in your room and you can't hack anything, but you want to read all this stuff. And then I remember when you used to have to download PGP, you had to fill out this whole form saying that you wouldn't send it overseas.
I remember that.
Encryption was a munition. Encryption was a weapon. And when you downloaded PGP to encrypt your mail to send a stupid message to your friend that had no value at all, I don't think anything we ever did had any value, but we encrypted it all. And every time we downloaded it, we had that big, scary message, full screen, like all the dashes and everything. And you were downloading PGP. So definitely being interested in encryption, being interested in the internet, and that early thing would lead you to Bitcoin. Definitely see that.
Yeah. And, I think it's good to share the message of we all feel like we didn't buy enough. Because I think there are people out there that, either, spent 20,000 Bitcoin on a pizza or whatever the case might be. And it's such a weird feeling to have the gains that we do and still feel regret. It's like when the price goes down, you feel regret because you held on to them and the price is dropping and everything's going to fail and this is the end of Bitcoin and I should have sold them all thousands of dollars ago. And when the price goes up, you think, gosh, how stupid was I to not buy at the low? I'm such a big dummy. I should have bought more. So I think that you have to get very zen about the whole thing and just really make sure you don't watch like the never, ever, ever look at the 4-hour chart of Bitcoin. Like, unless you are seriously day trading, never look at the 4-hour chart. It's just, I have banished the daily chart from my life and only look at the weekly. So, like you were saying, I saw some alerts on my phone that Bitcoin was crashing and I'm like, oh shit, I knew it was coming. And it's down to $30,000. And I'm going, are you guys kidding me? So yeah, you just, like I say, you have to get kind of zen about it and just say, this is my savings account. I'm gonna remove money from it, no different than I would remove money from my savings account. Like if I need a down payment on a new car, if I need some dental work done. So, one of those things that is just unplanned and you need a little extra money. So you dip into your savings and you get a little extra money.
It is. It's almost like a monkey's paw, though. This thing is coming to your life, and you're like, the worst thought. And again, I hate spreading this to you guys, but I'm only spreading it because I'm trying to deal with it myself. But okay, here we go. You're gonna work the rest of your life to try to get back the amount of Bitcoin that you once had. Yeah. Ow. And it doesn't matter who you are, what your level was. You're like, I used to have X. I used to have Y. Oh yeah, I used to have Z. And like, it's much worse if you have like Z and it's all these numbers, but it's just as bad if you have like a 3-digit number or a 2-digit number or a 1-digit number. Like all of these numbers are now kind of like, it's a huge boon for the psychology game. Everybody's going to need lots of therapy. Everyone who doesn't believe in therapy needs to start believing it. And what we're doing here is a public form of therapy where we're like, yeah, blew that one. And this is with the best of intentions. You're like, I valued this thing like gold. I loved it. Like every cell was horribly painful, but you had to live, right?
Right.
You had to pay down the credit cards. You had to get the food. For some people early on, it was just the idea that you could get anything at all for Bitcoin. The fact that you could get any novelty, like you got a physical item sent to you in the mail for Bitcoin, you spend
that was pretty cool.
1,000 Bitcoin on socks, or you got a access to information or pornography or something on the internet, and you spent 1,000 Bitcoin for that. And then somebody else, they're like, I wanted my medicine, and my medicine was illegal at the time. I know it seems ridiculous now. And now they're like, yeah, I used a creepy website with Tor and bought my medicine in the mail. And if I'd saved the change from my medicine, I would have retired. Everyone has to deal with that now, no matter. And it does matter you were crazy early or late or last year or whatever. It's and again, it could be over 3 weeks from now. The last time that we were crazy well off like this, and of course I'm a third well off than I used to be or whatever, but the last time we were up for like 3 days. We were up for a week. I mean, so even right now we're on the mountain, everyone's like, yay, happy, all this stuff. The problem with the HODL philosophy is that you can never sell. So if I had successfully HODLed to this point, I would have valued my value at a great big number, and I would have been, that's a sweet big number. But the problem is I never could have sold 90% of my Bitcoin or 99% of my Bitcoin to actually have that number. So you're always going to ride these ups and downs. And unless you're just well off or you're in a good position or you have a good job and all of these things everyone should keep, you're going to have a hard time surviving.
Security stuff for Zoom?
Live streaming is on.
And we're back. That was our hourly Jitsi break, saying hello to Jitsi and hello to open source software. This is going to happen.
It's just the gong of the bell.
Yeah, this is going to happen every hour. It gives us a nice little break. But yeah, we switched from Zoom to Jitsi because number one, Zoom was shutting down chats about Tiananmen Square, and Zoom is based in China, and that seemed kind of goofy. And then on the other side, Zoom said to everyone that they were end-to-end encryption. And we like that, yes, but they totally lied about it, right? They weren't actually end-to-end encryption. They just said they were. And so that's not cool, but they do provide a nice product. And I'm definitely considering going back there because Jitsi just doesn't provide feature parity with Zoom. Even if I have to pay $100 a year for Zoom, that's fine. It's not the paying. It was just more of a nonsense political stand that didn't go anywhere. And they should actually have encryption when they say they have it. That's really kind of BS.
They're they're lying about that. That's, you wonder what else they're lying about then, right? Mm-hmm. Trust.
Yeah, but we're already broadcasting, so it's not like we have any secrets.
Right, that's true.
So it is that, like, there is a point there for stoically using the product. But what were you saying, Dan? Go ahead.
I was saying that one of the things that you mentioned about like never selling or the HODL philosophy or things like that, I think it's really important to have your end goal in mind of what this investment is for. I know that when I got into it, I took the approach more of this would benefit me for my retirement. So for me, I took a relatively small portion of what I would normally allocate to my retirement, and I put it in Bitcoin. You know, I had kind of slowly studied investment over time. The number that I had heard somewhere was that 5 to 10% of your retirement should be in high risk, depending on how old you are, kind of thing. And for me, it was 5 to 10%. I had another 5% in I think it was GoPro, which ended up being totally disastrous. And then I took a different 5% and I put it into Bitcoin. So I don't feel this need to sell, because my philosophy going in was that this is going to be a very long-term investment. I'm living my life as if I don't have it, pretty much, just as you would a 401k or a stash of gold or silver coins that people have, you know. So for me, it's a fairly long-term thing. I think what really, really messes with people's emotions, and I tried day trading. I thought, boy, I could make some money. I could be my own boss. I could work from home. It'd be like I was a writer, except I did all TA work and stuff. And I lost a lot of Bitcoin doing that. And that was a hard lesson to learn, that, okay, maybe you don't have the talent for this. Some people do, so I've heard. But I didn't have the talent for it because it destroyed me emotionally, you know? I'd come home angry not because the price went down, because I didn't buy when I should have, or something weird like that, you know?
Well, so and with day trading Bitcoin, you can't even sleep. You don't get weekends off. You really, and then you need a team. You need a guy that's trading while you're sleeping, and you got to trust him. And then it gets crazy. And then somebody else has got to work the weekend, and the whole thing, it's way too much.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I think if you have a clear goal in mind, like, why am I buying this? Am I buying this as a long-term investment? Is this part of like a 401k? Do I consider this part of like a retirement portfolio? Do I think of this as a savings account where if I have some extra money, I'm going to hold it in Bitcoin, but if I need some money, I'm going to sell that Bitcoin so that I can get it out? Because if you have that framework first of this is my clear goal for this thing, psychologically, it's then, you know, if you sell at the wrong time because it was your savings account, you go, well, I needed to get some dental work done. I needed a couple extra $100. Like, that's what your savings account is for. So, you know, that I think having a clear goal probably mentally helps, at least.
But what if their clear goal is to get stinking rich?
Well, you know, the price of stinking rich is tremendous stress. So I guess you could do that. You just got to realize the other side of the monkey's paw wish, right?
And I do think it's much more stressful than people think, the idea of day trading this, or the idea of even just hodling this for 5 years or 10 years. Like you said, with the coin collection, that's something you put in the closet, you don't think about. And I don't know how many quarters I have, or how many silver dollars, or whatever it is. You don't have the exact number on your computer. But this damn Bitcoin, you're sitting there watching this chart. and you've got your number
Oh,
and
and
you're
when you
multiplying it.
refresh Blockfolio all the time?
Yeah.
Terrible.
And this happens. I think this happens instantly. You put your first 100 in, your first 1,000 in, and then your mind changes. And unlike any other investment, like you said with stocks, like I bought, Apple years ago and Facebook years ago, and I look at it every few years and I'm like, oh, that's good. That's more, tech stocks are still good. But you don't stress about it as much as you do with this Bitcoin thing. Something like right there, while I was talking, it went up $200. So if you had, and it's more and more ridiculous to have one, but if you had one, you would have won $200 right there, and then $20 gone. So if you had a multiplier on that, you'll go crazy, right? What can they do? What can they do? But it's a lot like the thing about the HODL philosophy is the reason that it's so attractive is because you don't have to think very much. And there was a great comic strip I put out on the Twitter as a Richard Feynman Twitter account, but looked like a Far Side strip. And on one side it had, it was like answers to questions of the world. And on one side it was simple, but wrong. And they just went off the cliff. And then it was like complicated, but true. And that was the other answer. So we really do have to look for something complicated and true rather than just giving into this 100%ism. Because I found that with like vegetarianism, it's easier to be 100% vegetarian and to cast doubt on everyone rather than to just try it every, a couple days a week. If we each did a couple days a week vegetarian, it would reduce water usage, reduce land usage, all those things better for our health. Just a couple days a week, but it's easier to be all or nothing. The same thing with the religion. It's easier to be totally religious and a zealot and go 100% than to be just a little religious. That's something about the human thing. So it's interesting to read when I read a long time ago in the Dalai Lama's book, How to Practice. And he said that Buddhism is a cafeteria. Other religions do have this 100%ism where you have to be 100% into the religion. And if you believe in this part, you also have to believe in this other part. And that can cause problems. But he said with Buddhism, he's like, this is a cafeteria. Take what you want. If you like meditating, if sitting quietly and clearing your mind helps you, do that. Right? Do it every day if you want. You do it twice a day. He doesn't care. Do it once a week. If you like the part about multiple lives and coming back and the kind of karmic system and all that, get into that. Right? But he doesn't care if you believe in one or not the other. And so I think that's a really valuable way to think about this and what the flexibility that you have to have this Bitcoin, and why we're talking about things like Zen. You have to laugh. You have to look at this number and say, gosh, I paid this much for a sticker, and I put the sticker on my car, and my car's not worth anything, and the sticker's not worth anything, and that sticker cost me $20 in Bitcoin at the time, and Bitcoin was $100, so $20 was a 0.2. So right now, a 0.2 is a 0.1 would be $3,600. So 0.2 would be $6,000. So that's a $6,000 Bitcoin sticker on my car that is worth less than $500, and I gave away to charity because cars don't last that long. You have to laugh at that. You have to be zen about that. You got to imagine like Laszlo, the pizza guy. He's our new Sisyphus, right? In the book, the guy says, you must imagine Sisyphus happy. He's pushing that rock up the hill all the time, and the rock keeps rolling back down. But what you have to imagine is right after that, Sisyphus like claps his hands and he has a smile on his face, and he's like, I'm going to go roll that rock back up the hill, right? And all of these Bitcoin people that have gone through all this and have made those purchases and made those bad sells, the best of them are the ones who are like, well, I screwed up. I spent all those Bitcoin years ago. Or like a friend of mine said, she had the best story. She said she had been gifted a lot of Bitcoin, and she held them in a website or one of these exchanges, and the exchange got hacked, or her password was weak or something like that, and they took all of her Bitcoin. And she said, only when they had taken away my Bitcoin did I realize that I had been given something valuable. It was the theft. It was the desire of the criminals for Bitcoin, what they were willing to do to get it, that proved to her just how valuable her brother or her friend's gift had been. And of course, we don't want to go into it, but it was probably hundreds. All these stories will break your heart if you knew the number. If you knew that it was 1,000 or it was 100 or it was 10. Right? We're getting into it. The next one is it'll be 1. You'll be like, I had 1 Bitcoin, but I traded it, like you're saying, Dan, with the day trading. I remember I got into Bitcoin like first week or whatever, first day or whatever. I'm on Mt. Gox. I think I'm smart. And I think I traded 1 Bitcoin down to a 0.3. And, it was $100. I traded down to $30, and that's not so bad. It's not as good as trading it up to 130 or whatever, but all I had to do was hold that Bitcoin or even hold that change, but not hold it in Mt. Gox. It was a lot. Right. If I held that on that exchange too long, I would have lost it all, and I would have been one of these people looking at their email for the strange Japanese message that comes every few months. So there's a lot of ups and downs in this. And I think the Zen philosophy, the pulling back philosophy, dollar cost averaging, keeping your job, not investing more than you can afford to lose, although that's fun, like totally acknowledging how fun that is. But it's better not to. And then if you do wake up and you're crazy up right now, pay off your credit card bills, pay off your house, like put some money aside for a rainy day. And that's going to mean breaking your hodl, but that's why what we're arguing for is a more complex strategy, a more thoughtful and measured strategy, something that you might have to actually turn the music off, turn the TV off, get out a yellow legal pad and write down on a piece of paper your thoughts and your goals and what you would want, and really think about this thing. I know thinking. Yeah,
Thomas, the other thing that you point out is that you should do it before. You should do it now. So think about, okay, what if we were at 50? How would I feel? What would I want to do? Would I think about selling it then? What about if it goes to 10? How would I feel if it went to 10? Would I want to sell at 25? What is going to help me the most psychologically to feel okay and pre-make that decision, so that when it spikes at some point, you don't just freak out and go, oh my God, I've got to buy more. I always have the opposite intuition, right? The price is flying up and I think I need to buy more. And then I buy more and it goes right back down. So I think pre-making some of those decisions so you don't get lost in the emotion is good too. But I have to go. I want to say I appreciate you and the World Crypto Network and the small fragments of Bitcoin donations that I've sent. I hope that they're worth millions someday. Those donations I have never regretted. So keep up the good work and happy birthday, Bitcoin. Thanks, Thomas.
Thanks so much for joining us, Dan, and happy birthday, Bitcoin. All right. If you'd like to give us a call, you can give us a call now on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word, or at 1-518-600-1949. Join the conversation. We're checking out the chat. BTC Moon Guy says, it's all about when you came in. It's about store of value. There's more resources now. Slice Keeper says, I can pay off all of my debt and my mortgage, but there goes the whole bag. Break even or gain? Well, that's a tough one. And first of all, I got to bum you out, at least if you're in the United States. And I always suggest that everyone should pay their taxes, so on and so forth. In the United States, you're going to need at least an extra 30% or so above whatever your debts are to pay them off. This is something that you might not know and you might not think about, and you might think, oh, it doesn't matter to me. I'm not rich. I don't need to worry about what capital gains tax is. But you actually do, and you're definitely going to pay it one way or the other. So that's one thing. So you're going to need more. The other thing is exactly what you're saying. There goes the whole bag. So you want to think more maybe towards 10%, 20%. It is good to always get a little bit of gains, have a nice little taste. Looks like he says in the chat, and again, this is not investment or tax advice. We're not an expert here. We're just commenting and talking to people generally. He says that the long-term capital gains happened for him yesterday. So at least he would be in the lower tax bracket if you hold your investments for a certain point of time, depending on your jurisdiction and so forth. You can sell and you could pay less tax. So that would be good to be in the less tax category. I think it comes to a question of sorting. You mentioned all of your debts and your mortgage. So you're probably like me. You got the mortgage payment and you also got your credit card payment. Your credit card payment presumably is higher interest. Though if you're like me, and a lot of people are, you might have been rolling your credit card debt from low interest to low interest. So if you have low interest, it's not that bad to keep those going. But if you do have a high interest credit card or a high interest loan from Lending Tree or one of these companies, it's good to pay that off, right? You could pay it off all at once is good. You could put aside a bunch of fiat and then have the fiat to pay the bill. So that would be a good option, either one of those, although it's kind of easier to just pay it off to be done with. It feels really good to have less debt. It's a strange thing. It says he's having a tough credit score, pandemic and layoffs. There's another strategy where people go bankrupt. If you don't own a house, if you don't have a lot of physical possessions, I'm not advising this, but since the beginning of time, people have run up credit cards and gone bankrupt. They did change the bankruptcy laws in the United States. They're not quite as good as they used to be. So it is possible you do have to keep paying the credit card company forever. Personally, I do feel kind of a responsibility to debt. I know it's absurd. They're big companies. They don't care. But if a big company wants to lend me money, I think it'd be good of me to pay it back to them. I know it's absurd, but that's the kind of morals and values that I have. At least I try to have. I aspire to have. But this is Bitcoin Talk Show. We're celebrating Bitcoin's birthday. Join us in the chat. Give us a thumbs up and a share. You could spread this on social media, put it on the Reddits or wherever your kids hang out these days. We're trying to get some more guests, but it seems like people have a lot going on Sunday. But we're happy to be here with you celebrating this Bitcoin birthday 2021. I was talking earlier about Lewis Mumford, and he's a really interesting academic. I've been reading a lot about his political theory and his ideas. But one of the most interesting things about Mumford is that he saw the Second World War happening before it happened, and that Mumford didn't stay quiet. Mumford spoke out against the coming of the Second World War, and he was against it. He was against the Nazis before it was cool. He was against the fascists in Italy. And he was against people that supported them in his own country, even famously speaking out against Frank Lloyd Wright, the famous architect, for being too weak on the rising threat of National Socialism. So check out Lewis Mumford. Interesting books. We're checking in with the price of Bitcoin on today, January 3rd, 2021, celebrating Genesis Block Day. The day, January 3rd, 2009, when Satoshi launched the Genesis block of Bitcoin to line up with the headline in the Times newspaper. The price of Bitcoin is down 1.1% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 32,704, a high of 34,873, and a low of 30,600. That's $1 for 3,059 Satoshis. The Genesis block is the first block of a blockchain. Modern versions of Bitcoin number it as block 0, though early versions counted it as block 1. The Genesis block is almost always hard-coded into the software of the applications that utilize its blockchain. It is a special case in that it does not reference a previous block. And for Bitcoin and almost all of its derivatives, it produces an unspendable subsidy. The Bitcoin Genesis block. Of course, Satoshi famously coded within the Genesis block the words, "The Times, 03 Jan 2009, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks." Satoshi then continued mining this block for 6 days, perhaps testing Bitcoin, or perhaps he was ready but not quite ready to release the software. Then, just as God did, on the 7th day, Satoshi released the Genesis block. We were looking at some fun Bitcoin questions on Google. How long does it take to mine one Bitcoin? Regardless of the number of miners, it still takes 10 minutes to mine one Bitcoin. At 600 seconds, 10 minutes, all else being equal, it will take 72,000 gigawatts or 72 terawatts to power and to mine Bitcoin using the average power usage provided by ASIC miners. Interesting. Can one Bitcoin make you a millionaire? While it may be difficult, theoretically, one Bitcoin can eventually make you a millionaire. The value of Bitcoin changes regularly, so sometimes quickly. If you buy or mine $10 in Bitcoin, then trade them for $1,000 because the value increased, you will have made $990. Okay. Did anyone get rich off Bitcoin? Some people did. Can you get rich off Bitcoin? Basically, you should have bought about 1,000 Bitcoins back in the day when they were cheap. They would have cost you around $10,000 in 2011, making you a millionaire today. Making $1 million with Bitcoins is still totally possible, but you'll need some capital. That's a good point. If you don't have any capital back in the day, like I didn't have any capital, a lot of people don't have any capital, you couldn't have just bought 1,000 Bitcoins. That's just not so easy. Can you invest $10 in Bitcoin? Yes, you definitely can invest $10 in Bitcoin. You can start buying them at Coinbase or Cash App or any of the other places to buy Bitcoin. Is it a good time to buy Bitcoin? Pretty much. It's always a good time. Whenever you hear about it is a good time. Checking out the chat. Slice Keeper says he's on payment plans with credit card companies. Well, that's definitely the best way to go. I don't know this personally, but I should have tried this. There are some debt reconciliation programs where you can maybe pay less money on your credit cards. Maybe do one of those negotiations and then pay them off. But yeah, definitely if selling 10 or maybe even 20% would help you pay down your high interest debts, that's the way to go. You're going to feel more secure, more stable. If you really want to think about this thing at a large scale, like Dan and I were talking about, you do have to kind of separate. You have to take a step back and take a macro look at your finances. And no one does this, I don't think. Nobody. I heard the best thing on Square One television, Square One math television back in the day. They were talking about chess, and they said that it makes a big difference if you look at the problem from a different angle. And they said that to me in song. But still, that idea of taking chess and just rotating the board and looking at it differently. You need to look at your finances differently. And if you do, if there's taking 5% or 10%, taking a small amount of your profits off the board will help you with your finances, you should probably do it. It says just over 30 Bitcoins is $1 million. So got to stack those sats. The price of Bitcoin is down 1%. in the last 24 hours, with a last of 32,752. It's pretty fun yesterday. We were doing a show. It dipped down to 30,000 and then it popped right back up. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Let's see, we have some stuff to play you here. Recently, there was a new episode of that rascally Mad Bitcoin. So let's check that out. Here's Mad Bitcoin. Good morning, Bitcoins. Today is Friday, January 1st, 2021, in Riga, Latvia. Mad Bitcoins. I'm loving it. The price of Bitcoin is up 2.21% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 29,279. No, I'm sorry. That can't be right. Can someone please put the correct script on the teleprompter? Well, whatever. It also says a high of 29,620. That's just ridiculous. And a low of 28,267. Sounds like a real tragic low. That's $1 for 3,415 Satoshis. That just can't be right. This is ridiculous. Anyway, here are today's bad bits. Bitcoin price faces the last roadblock before $30,000. Still ridiculous. What year is this? Didn't I tell you to buy this stuff when it was $300? Did anybody do that? Well, some of you did. But it's not too late for the rest of you no-coiners to become, what do they call it now? Partial coiners? Sat stackers? Those who did not heed the call? But don't worry, it's not too late. You can still buy Bitcoin before it reaches $30,000 a coin. Seriously? Do I have any of this Bitcoin stuff left? Some. Not a lot. But some? Well, some will have to be enough. Cheers to $30,000 a coin and more. 2021? Gold or Bitcoin in 2021? Probably both, but Bitcoin will shine more brightly. Well, duh, Forbes magazine. Bitcoin will shine more brightly than gold and will probably eat up all of their market share, leading to a base Bitcoin price of $250,000 and a speculative price of $1 million. But we all said this in 2013. Isn't this one of the first things that people learn about Bitcoin that blows their mind? That there are only 21 million Bitcoins? 21 in 2021. I wonder if that will be a thing, he said sarcastically. Bitcoin credit and debit cards will change earning rewards in 2021. Yes, if you're too dumb to invest in Bitcoin by now, your credit card company will give your pathetic riddle reward potion in little slivers of Bitcoin. They're called Satoshis, and you're lucky to have them. He's lucky. I'm lucky. We're all lucky. But for those without, have fun staying poor. As the popular jerk saying goes, it's really not a nice thing to say, but I fear it's catching on. Still, if you've got credit cards, it would be better to get your rewards in Satoshis instead of government credits. One of those things has a fixed and limited supply, and the other one, well, I hear they have an infinite amount of those.
There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Wall Street revives dream of Bitcoin ETF with new SEC filing. It's an oldie but a goodie from Bloomberg this morning, as Wall Street is back yet again with their ingenious plan to hold Bitcoin and sell it as fractionalized shares on the stock market. The long-awaited dream of letting the common man buy Bitcoin shares without having to learn what a Bitcoin wallet is may have finally arrived. Too bad no one cares about the common man anymore. He may have missed his boat by a long shot, but he's likely waiting for the helicopter or the Lambo. Russian oil drilling giant opens a crypto mining farm run on gas energy in Siberia. What is this? Science fiction day? First $30,000 Bitcoin, and now this. I wish we didn't have to do shows on New Year's when the teleprompter operator and the writer get drunk together the night before. This kind of unprofessionalism is downright nonsense. Anyway, Gazprom Neft, the oil subsidiary of the Russian natural gas giant Gazprom, is getting into Bitcoin. Excess CO2 from the oil drilling operations can be used for electricity generation, and that electricity can be used to mine Bitcoin. Yes, 2021 is looking like a very good year for Bitcoin, with the price suddenly becoming absolutely insane, and everybody and their brother suddenly a fan of the fledgling cryptocurrency. It sounds like fun. I'm looking forward to it. Like this video, share it, put it on the Reddit thing or the Twitter birds or wherever you kids get your news these days. Bitcoin, Satoshi, Patreon, and Lightning donations make this show possible. Thank you for your support. We got to pay the rent. Oh, we're out of time. Until next time, this has been Mad Bitcoins. Mad Bitcoins. Mad Bitcoins. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. Buy Bitcoin. Seems like an incredibly outdated show just a few days ago. That's ridiculous. Bitcoin only 29,000. When did you film that? The 90s? Let's see. Give me my screen back. Oh, thank you. This is Bitcoin Talk Show, and we're talking to you, the audience. Give us a thumbs up and a share, whether we're talking in the chat or on the phone at 1-518-600-1949 or at Skype, World Crypto Network, all one word. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Let's see. General Byzantian says, the nice thing about the Bitcoin all-time high is that you're 100% sure you bought them for less. So I used to have that kind of strategy. I used to say, gosh, every time there's an all-time high, I should just sell a little bit, right? But there's been 3 all-time highs in the last 3 days. So it's another one of those, if I had sold, I would have less. If I had sold, I would have less. So on and so forth. But that is a good point. The all-time high, traditionally, always a good time to sell a little bit. Nothing wrong with that. Rolando says, do you guys get calls from your friends asking about Bitcoin? Not so much anymore. But there really were back in the days. I had one where a person I used to work with called me up, and it was just the nicest thing. He remembered that I had gotten into Bitcoin, and he kind of politely asked, do you still have any or a little bit or something? And I was like, yeah, I have a little bit. I'm still in there. And he was just happy for me. He was happy for me that I'd been successful. And it was just a really nice thing. And that was cool. That was one of the good calls. As far as like people I've told to buy Bitcoin coming back to me, suddenly wanting that information, at least with me, and your results may vary. With me, they haven't come back. You know how sarcastic I am and so forth. They probably think I'd be mean to them. Really, I try not to be sarcastic and I try not to do those things. And I would probably just point them towards Coinbase or Cash App or one of the others and tell them, hey, buy $100 worth, buy $100 a month. Don't worry about the price, that kind of thing. Don't worry about what you could have had. All these things. They won't listen. No one listens. But I think it's very hard to give friends advice. As Dan and I were talking earlier, it is a bit like a monkey's paw. It's a cursed wish. That's an old story, kind of like a Twilight Zone episode. I think I know it from a Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. But you youngsters probably all know it if you watched Wonder Woman 84. No spoilers, but the whole movie's a monkey's paw. It's a magical wishing device that cans cursed wishes, as Rick and Morty said on that great episode. This shop sells cursed items. So Q Fang in the chat then said, no, I don't get phone calls, but I am telling friends about Bitcoin. I am very kind, right? And that is the point. Isn't that the funny thing? Are you being kind? When we were down, when the price was way down and all my friends had lost money, it didn't seem like I was kind to them by spreading them this knowledge. And in the same way, the ones who didn't buy were all like, oh yeah, I did the right thing. I didn't buy the crazy thing. I didn't go on the ride. And I'm happy now. But now that we're up, it's the opposite. Everyone's like, I wish I took the ride. I wish I'd done the crazy thing. It would have been so easy. So when you give your friends Bitcoin, you give them both sides of that coin. You give them the plus and the minus, right? It's good and bad. So it is funny to ask. I am very kind, right? I know that it's kind of phrased that way probably because of a language translation and things, but it's a smart way of asking. It's a good question to ask. Is it kind or not? Disruptive wants this to be a 24-hour-a-day show. I'd always wanted a 24 hours a day show. I was just talking into my voice recorder before this about World Crypto Network and what it should be and what I wanted it to be and so forth. But yeah, we always thought 24 hours a day, if we could have different people come in, do their show, tell their portion, go on and off. We had problems where we couldn't do that technically. The YouTube couldn't be handed off. We had technical issues. We also had issues where we don't have enough people to do that, and we would wear out our people really quickly. So we switched to kind of a weekly show format where people did weekly shows, and it was cool. And then, people come, people go, we go up, we go down, price goes up and down, and we just come back here and we just want to talk about Bitcoin. We want to spread the word. It's not so much about the money. It's more about getting people to use it. It's more about the possibilities of not being controlled by central banks, the possibilities of government not controlling money, the possibility of sending value anywhere in the world. You can buy something like a digital item, or you can pay someone for their work. Like someone could do graphic design and you could pay them over the internet, and it would be a one-way payment that can't be canceled. So many of us grew up with PayPal and eBay and having our payments canceled and reversed, having the money that we earned taken from us. And Bitcoin's not that way. It's much more like email. It sends and it's sent. It's one way. It's done. I'm going to pour some milk in my tea. Join us in the chat. Send your comments in the chat. We're reading chat. So give us a thumbs up and a share. It's getting a little quiet out there. It's getting later in the European market, but we're keeping up here on Bitcoin. birthday show. General Byzantium says, I have Bitcoin, not friends. Very true. Very true. And Disruptive says, BlockFi. Pomp says that it's good. He doesn't know. 8% back on loans or credit. There are more and more platforms coming up where maybe you wouldn't have to sell your Bitcoin. Maybe you could just take a loan out against your Bitcoin and hopefully earn enough money or have Bitcoin go up enough that you could come back later and pay off that loan. The problem is that website is going to be holding your Bitcoin. So you really got to trust them. So I don't know anything about BlockFi. I assume they're trustworthy. I just don't know though. So you've got to do what you got to do. So it's up to you, but I'm definitely interested in those personally. I regret all my sells, blah, blah, blah. But still, sometimes you wouldn't be able to pay off the loan. So you could still have regrets there. And it's much worse if they cut off and they take away with your money. So watch out for that. Rolando says, nobody likes you anyway, General. But he's kidding. And General says he doesn't care as long as he can get a Bitcoin waifu. I think that means girl, but probably something worse. There was a story, excuse me. Sorry, got to work on the talking long thing. There was a story for a while there. If you had 6.15 Bitcoin, you could get like a fine girl or something. You guys tell me the quote. There was some kind of horrible quote, but they said it all the time for a while there. And it was pretty fun, but it also seemed like a lot of money just to get a fine girl. But who knows? Let's see. Disruptive says he wants the hat. Well, I definitely can't sell my real hat. There are other hats like that are available. No spoilers, but there was a pretty major movie made of Alice in Wonderland. So I'm just another fan of Johnny Depp, right? General Byzantium singing along with my song, let it bit. In times of trouble, let it Bitcoin. So very cool. Let's see. Long live Lincoln. Tell his stories. Get the hat. Yeah, it would be cool if the Mad Bitcoins hat was like a Lincoln hat. I think it's pretty cool. Danielle Jeffries did not like the Wonder Woman movies. They like Danielle Jeffries. Well, the main problem with the Wonder Woman movie, without going too much into it, is just that the plot was a mess. The story doesn't make any sense. A lot of strange things happen. The villains are badly defined, and that just makes for a not great movie. And I wanted it to be a good movie. I thought the first Wonder Woman movie was much better than this. General Byzantium says 24 hours World Crypto Network. What is this? The Richard Hart channel? You know, ups and downs, scams and not scams, hexes and whatever. You got to admire that guy for his energy and his ability to keep talking. A friend of mine said once, he said, how long can you talk? And he meant consecutive. He meant, how long can you just keep it up? And I said, maybe a couple hours. I try to talk in maybe 30-minute bumps. Or maybe if I could have a guest or somebody else talk to me, that'd be good because I don't have to carry it consecutive. But he was like, no, I can talk 8 hours a day. I'm strong. So he had a whole different thing. And I think Richard Hart would follow my friend's old philosophy there. He is a talker. We had a show going the other day, Martine and I. There was maybe 152 viewers still with us live. And I was tired. I was like, all right, 2 hours. We talked about Bitcoin. We looked at the chart. We did it. Richard Hart, he's got like another gear. He would just keep going and he would do another hour of promoting Hex or whatever his project is. He would just never let that audience go. He would drive them. But General says, even MTV only did a 12-hour loop repeated twice a day, covering both shifts with the same content. So that's definitely an idea. If we had enough people to produce a 12-hour loop of World Crypto Network, then if we had the technical capacity to repeat it during the evening hours, that would be a pretty good start. I do still like this idea of World Crypto Network like CNN. It's just going to take a lot more funding and organization than we currently have. We have a kind of a disorganized World Crypto Network, and we're getting disorganized results. And they like Richard Hart's set. his candelabra. It's like Dracula's set, Liberace colors. Yes, he's very cool. I like his crystals. He's got these crazy crystal cabinet in the background. He doesn't really show them, and I don't know anything about rocks, but I assume they're valuable. Hey, we're joined by Josh Gagala. Josh, how's it going? Happy birthday, Bitcoin.
Yeah, happy birthday, Bitcoin. It's an incredible journey, 12 years young, and it's just been how cool is it to be in this industry? I mean, it's one of these industries that just keeps on giving. You know, we have these crazy characters, this wonderful things that happen, like hacks, and I mean, they're not wonderful, they're horrible, but they're interesting, is what I'm saying. Like the and then the aftermath, and then you've got, for instance, the DAO hack that was crazy. You know, in Ethereum, it's literally like a book, like a sci-fi novel that we're living through, and it's been 12 years of that, and it's just a glorious thing to take part. So anyone that joins, even if you're not invested, it does make fun. It's being invested in this though. But even if you're not, it's just an interesting space to follow.
Yes, it's been very exciting. The ups and the downs, the goods and the bads, all of it. Bitcoin.
All of it. Yeah, the dark markets, and then Ross Ulbricht getting taken down, and then all the crazy aftermath of that.
Even just thinking about market crashes. How many crazy market crashes have you lived through, Josh? I know, like you're saying, the Ross Ulbricht, the Dread Pirate Roberts arrest, that affected the Bitcoin markets. I think, just generally, I want to say, I think we went from 1,000 to 200 back to 1,000 in a single day. It was insane. I remember I was speculating on Bitcoin and Litecoin, and at the end of the day, I had a completely different number. My money had moved left and right and up and down. I had no idea what I was doing. It was all panic. And it was all like, you couldn't leave a computer. I was like, I can't be away from a computer because there could be a trade or a whatever. It's a trading the same way people play Street Fighter, right?
Yeah, I know.
And those buttons. And it was so much. It was fun. It was monetarily not fun, but it's been wild, right? Like you have to go to the larger scale. Like we were talking earlier with Dan. Dan Williams was saying that you have to be zen about your trades. You have to be like, ha ha ha, I used to have more, and ha ha ha, it's less and it's more up, and all these things. I think in the same way, you have to be zen about all these events we've experienced. You have to be like, see them as the fun that they are, because they are so world moving in the price and all these things, but they're also just fun because crazy things happen. We had a point in this space. I remember on Christmas or Christmas Eve, one of the major journalists like Kashmir Hill was interviewing the Dread Pirate Roberts live in a chat room or something. And it came out like the day we read the transcript practically on Christmas. The guy was going around calling himself the Dread Pirate Roberts, direct take from the wonderful Princess Bride movie and book. And the idea of everlasting piracy and everlasting Silk Roadism, which he was completely right about. There are tons more Silk Roads. There are virtually other Dread Pirate Roberts, whether they don't use the name or not. And who knows? It could have been multiple people. It's that's a real thing in our industry, in our crazy world. And sadly, of course, he's a real person in jail now. He's a Boy Scout. He seems like a nice guy. He's nonviolent, never hurt anybody except for the whole entrapment thing where they entrapped him into committing murder and thinking he was a godfather mobster. You know, someone comes to you, they give you the hand and they say, you got people working against you and I'm giving you the power to get rid of those people. I mean, it seems like entrapment to me, but
not only that, they never actually, they dropped all those charges. To me, it really felt like the guy, because he had a massive following. For all those that were around back then, he had a massive following. Like, Bitcoin was a very small community, but in that community, most people were philosophically very much aligned with his stance on nonviolent ability for adults to do win-win trades when there was no violence involved. And in fact, they made sure that the markets didn't have guns in them. They opened a secondary market called the Armory or something, because he didn't want any arms on there, because that could be seen as using violence. So he was very much on the philosophy of non-violence, and a lot of his writings were amazing, and he had this huge following. And as soon as they brought out these murder for hire charges, these trumped up murder for hire charges, everyone turned their back on him. The whole community. And I think that was the reason why they did that, was because they wouldn't have thousands and thousands of people, backing this guy up. Everyone turned his back. He was this lone guy now that was easy to take down. And then they just dropped all those charges anyway. But every time you mention DPR on Reddit or something, straight away the first comment is, "Yeah, but he murdered for hire," and stuff like this. And so it's really hard to know what actually went on there. But it's also just like his defense really was that there was multiple Dread Pirate Roberts. That was the whole point of the name as well. That plus afterwards people logged into that account and that had other access to it, and he'd apparently sold it before. He just made the software. So he should definitely, if you haven't gone to Free Ross, you should check out the story. Also, Alex Winter from Bill and Ted fame did an excellent documentary on the whole ordeal, which was on Netflix for a while. I think it might be still on there, called Darknet or Deep Web or something. Check that as well. Did you end up seeing that?
I haven't seen that. I didn't know it was so easily available. I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
I've heard good things both about that and about Alex Winter's directing ability. Somebody was just lauding him as a documentary filmmaker on Twitter, Casey Neistat, somebody like that.
Yeah, no, he's very good. He's very good. Yeah, no, it was great. But yeah, this whole space has just been one amazing ride. And then of course you have it was too bad, going back to Ross before we move on, is it's too bad the way they had to, like you say, Josh, they kind of had to destroy him as a potential libertarian hero before they made the story more public. Yeah. We all know about the famous story where Senator Schumer tells everyone about the Silk Road and how you can buy drugs illegally online. And everybody except for him sees it as an advertisement. And they're like, my God, you can buy drugs for this online. What is this Bitcoin thing? Yeah. So that was kind of a big point. And then between there and the trial, they had to kind of get rid of him because, like you said, his politics, his writing was very strong. The interview on Christmas Eve, the strength that the Dread Pirate Roberts was presenting was a very strong thing for them to come up against. And then they did it again in the trial by sending the protesters away. I've talked about it many times, but I always try to put this down on the record from at least what I've heard. The judge went to Ross's mom and threatened her and said that they would sequester the jury, and the jury would blame the protesters for making them sequestered and away from their lives and so forth, and it would be a bad verdict, and that therefore they should send away the protesters. And one of the things that maddened the judge so much is that the protesters were looking for jury nullification. The idea that the drug war is stupid and that Ross broke a stupid law, so you shouldn't put anyone in jail for breaking a stupid law. Which is one of the least known parts of American juries, that if the jury just says, hey, that's not a thing, that's not a crime, we don't think it's a crime, you don't go to jail. The jury can't convict. So they were trying to do that with Ross. Judge didn't like it. And then the protesters were sent home. And again, Ross was separated from this image. And again, we're always both sides and we're always looking forward and backwards. But I also fault the Ross Ulbricht communication device. There is no book from the Ross Ulbricht. There's no story about his side. There's no daily blog. There's no communication. Like, there's a little bit of communication, but it's not the best and the strongest, and it doesn't form the image of this libertarian hero. It doesn't try to reform that. This guy fought the drug war. The drug war is stupid. Marijuana is being legalized everywhere. Most of the traffic on that website, studies have shown, is marijuana, large-scale marijuana traffic. So not only that, there was
like hero. So.
Yeah, there was a lot of also medications that people couldn't get in certain places. There was also CBD for people that couldn't have CBD back then, and that a lot of that was being bought on there for people that were dying of cancer and couldn't get it. There's a lot of different a lot of different stories have come out over the years of people who are like, man, thank God for the Silk Road at the time, because it really helped me get through a massive issue I had, and was able to get medication. It really should. I really hope that I would see a pardon on Trump's exit for him, but that looks less and less likely. Which is
I like that idea, and I wish it was anyway true. Where because Trump is random and crazy, he might randomly pardon the people that we support being pardoned, whether it's Assange or Snowden or Ross Ulbricht, all of who are deserving in their own way of pardons and maybe not deserving, so on and so forth. But no, he's not really that random. You had to be kind of involved with him, and you had to have a monetary thing, and then you could have gotten a pardon. So it's just disappointing that Ross wasn't able to get in the Trump gang, and he couldn't have supplied them with some money or some drugs or something. He needed an
yeah, I mean, I don't know, like Assange, he wasn't in Team Trump, but he definitely leaked a lot of stuff that helped the election back in the day. Leaked a lot of the Hillary emails and stuff like that.
There were times when Trump was singing his praises on Twitter, saying, "I love WikiLeaks," and such. So
yeah, and I mean, the thing is that. We have, Hillary's emails should have definitely been leaked because, they were ridiculous, and it's good that stuff is out. I mean, if anyone should be surveilled in society, it should be politicians. That's for sure. But on to Bitcoin. I mean, back to Bitcoin. It's really an honor, not only to be on shows like this, but also to have experienced and to learn a lot about trading, about the psychology of the trade, about economic theory, about politics, about the lack of politics, which is my certain flavor. But it's really, that's what I love about Bitcoin. It's all encompassing. It brings together such an amazing, eclectic group of characters, and it's the best thing that could have happened in my life.
And it definitely is. It can give you that kind of long-term purpose that you're looking for, whether it's trading it, learning about it, teaching people about it, being interested in it, holding a little bit. It's just a great topic, and it has so many different levels. Like you said, you can go into it from a political perspective, from a technical perspective, from a monetary or an economic perspective, societal perspective, environmental perspective. You could say it's going to destroy the world. That's a fun one.
Or also a need perspective, like I need to send some money to someone, or I need to pay someone.
It's a lot of different ways that people get into Bitcoin. A lot of different things that call them to Bitcoin. And I'd just like to remind everyone in the chat, if you'd like to call now and tell us how you got into Bitcoin, you can call now at 1-518-600-1949 or on Skype at World Crypto Network. All one word. Say your piece. Join the show. Call now.
I love this sort of community television style font that you've got here.
Yeah, I think that's a video game font. Has that kind of blocky edge to it.
Very nice. It's like a public access style.
Yeah, well, I know we could have tried to do a bigger show with the big guests and all that, and I guess that's what's popular these days. But I just thought it'd be more fun to get the crew together and get the audience together, and if more people want to talk about Bitcoin and have their say and just put in a little happy birthday Bitcoin.
Yeah, come on, folks. Give us a call, 518-600-1949.
We're pretty much down to a private show at this point. So if you're still watching, or if you're watching the replay, you're watching a private show. We're down to 19 viewers. We have 42 likes. So these are the people that are hanging in there. They probably left it on in the background, went about their day doing errands, getting things done, and listening to us chat about Bitcoin's birthday. So if you did want to join us, it is a great time to join us.
Yeah, I also really want to know about what people's favorite moment was over the last 12 years in crypto. I mean, I got to say, I wanted to go back to the Ethereum DAO hack, because for me that was so fascinating, because you basically had this pool of money in this smart contract, and this hacker.
Live streaming is on.
And we're back.
Go ahead, Josh. You're talking about the DAO hack.
Yeah, and you know, millions of dollars were in this worth of crypto, worth of Ethereum in this smart contract, and then people had like 2 weeks to because the smart contract allowed you to the hack was that it allowed you to remove the funds, but only to a daughter DAO for a little bit, and it was locked in there for 2 weeks, or a certain amount of blocks anyway, which would equal to about 2 weeks or 4 weeks or something. But a certain amount of time, and watching everyone scramble on how to solve the hack, and then eventually they went to fork the whole network because that would stop the hacker. And wasn't it amazing to see this sort of technical, futuristic bank robbery almost go down? I mean, you know, awful for the people that lost money, but it was just fascinating on a technical perspective to see this whole thing go down, and that's one of the highlights of this time for me was really, you know, the countdown. Like, we've got another 6 days. What are we going to do? And everyone talking, and they're on their phones, they're on the chat forums, and they're trying to technically figure out, maybe we could do this and that. No, because that will have that effect, and then trying to get enough miners ready to sort of move over to a fork. And then you had, of course, the Ethereum Classic crew going, no way, screw this, code is law. You just wrote it wrong, and amazing, absolutely phenomenal. And I know that's Ethereum, but for me, it's all stemmed from Bitcoin. You know, Bitcoin was the first, and for me, it's this industry. It's all there. So it's yeah, this is what's so fascinating about this entire space.
Yeah, that was a wild one. We had a similar situation on Bitcoin when the Bitcoin Cash broke off. When they forked off. And I know we did a similar live show here on the World Crypto Network, and we had all kinds of people watching, and it was a big day. And generally, you know, we were as shocked as everyone else. Why are they doing this? Why do they think this is going to work? Should we invest in Bitcoin Cash? Should you hold both sides of the fork? We never really thought so. And if you look at it now, you know, you'd still have your $300 Bcash, I guess, but you could just have your $30,000 Bitcoin instead.
Yeah.
So if a lot of people say that Roger didn't sell and that he just said that he sold and all that, but yes, if he had sold, he would have taken a terrible loss on Bcash versus Bitcoin. Anyone who did took a terrible loss, and it's
but you know, the beautiful design of Bitcoin, how Satoshi really beautifully orchestrated, is that you do have coins on both chains, and you can wait long enough, like you've still got the value on both chains. So even if you didn't sell Bcash for Bitcoin and you could have got more Bitcoin, sure, but you know, really, who knows? Because any fork, like, let's take this particular political thing out of the picture. But let's just say Bitcoin forks again, and there's half the people wanting a certain technical solution and another half wanting another technical solution. A lot of people, like holders like me and you, don't fully grasp the particulars of a technical solution. So for us, it's great that we do get the option of holding the both, and let's see who the winner is. Maybe it's this side, maybe it's that side. And that's just a very, very elegant way of upgrading a piece of software in terms of an immutable database that really can only really be upgraded and can't be downgraded again. So it's one of these things that that was really well thought out. I feel the whole fork thing, and I think Bitcoin has been very, very in terms of the BTC side, has been very, very conservative with its upgrades. I mean, we're still, we're not even at version 1 yet, and it's been 12 years. Whereas there's other forks of Bitcoin, all around the place, thousands and thousands of them now, and some are already on version 12 and 20 and 38 and whatever. Bitcoin hardly ever upgrades. When it does, it really takes the developers and the community really take very, very long, hard care to make sure that it's just a small change. And I think this is where a lot of the store of value stuff comes from, is to say, well, we're not going to change it. It is changing the way it's being used, because in the early days we used to send Bitcoin around left, right, and center, but nowadays you buy a little bit more and hold it, which I don't think is the best way to go. Particularly Lightning, I hope, will solve that, because I feel a lot of the dream was to bank the unbanked. That you never hear that anymore. You never hear that in the community, sadly, because the unbanked can't afford such massive transaction fees. So it's when you want Bitcoin BTC.
It was nice to hear that kind of mentioned again right here on the World Crypto Network just a little while ago when you guys did that interview with Sphinx Chat.
Yeah.
Remember the Sphinx Chat guys were talking, and what they'd done, just basically, it seems like they've taken the Lightning Network and they've taken the basic ideas of chat and community and podcasting, and they've gone back to the basic building blocks and said, how can we integrate the Lightning Network into this idea of community? And one of the things they were showing was when you're watching a podcast, an audio podcast, you could pause and you could comment directly on that timestamp of the podcast. And you could even send in $5 at that time, saying, I like what was being said there. I like the way the discussion was going. And that you can't do that with current audio podcast. It's kind of it's just on your phone. You're out working out or you're listening to it.
Very cool. Hey, that whole Sphinx Chat, you guys can listen to it. It's on the World Crypto Network.
And what was nice, Josh, is they even said in their chat that most of the benefits for this might be for the unbanked. That you don't even realize. You roll into this chat community, right? And you think you're going to watch podcasts and make chats, right? But they give you an account at the same time. That account, that Bitcoin account, that Lightning account, that's as good as a bank. Right? That really does have a lot of the functions and features of a bank. You can use it for holding your savings. You could send to a different account, with low fees with Lightning. And it does have a lot of that bank aspect. So I was really impressed to see that project come up and to see this kind of reimagining, and that they had to take it down to that level. And yeah, it's going to make it harder to get it adopted because it's not, part of Facebook, or it's not a part of Twitter. It's its own new network, and that has a lot of challenges. But seeing this idea academically being stripped apart, put back in with its basics. Oh, of course you can send money in the chat. Of course you can send money to the person you're listening to. One of the things I think they were saying there is that when they built the internet, they had a payment number. It was like payment 402. And just like error code 403 or whatever, you would get a payment, and that this would be the website expecting payment. And at the time, we just didn't have Bitcoin. We didn't have it. We had PayPal on our Palm Pilots, and it was pretty good, and you could send money around. But
it wasn't a protocol. It was a service.
It was centralized by choice because, of course, the PayPal guys in their thought experiment had said, well, what if somebody off of the PayPal website is using PayPal, the currency, right? If it was PayPal like Bitcoin, they could buy anything they want. And that's a Silk Road nightmare. That's a Silk Road violence nightmare. That's a even worse terrorism and other things nightmare. Letting people spend their own money like adults is seen as a threat to all of society. So PayPal's smart guys back then were like, no, we should just keep it on our website. And they didn't become the Bitcoin. But like the guys were saying, we didn't have anything to fill in this payment 402, this error code, this space where there should be internet's money system. And now we do. And now we have to rebuild everything. We have to rebuild all the social networks and all the other things. And it's just going to be like everything else. You build a perfectly good open source free model to the right of Facebook. And if you build it big enough and you're successful enough, Facebook copies all of your features and puts you out of business. Success. Yeah. You did it, right? Your ideas succeed. Maybe you don't profit. You're not the king of whatever it is, but that's the version of success that we might have.
Yeah, it's despicable. I mean, you see that happened with Snapchat. They copied the stories idea where it disappears after a day or whatever it is. They copied filters, put that into Instagram. You know, a lot of this stuff is copied from other projects instead of buying them, which are, you know, at the same time is good because they just otherwise buy everything. But at the end of the day, what I really love is protocols. I think that's the beauty of Bitcoin. I would like to see the 402 era actually being utilized for Lightning. The standards associations or whatnot. I'm not sure how you start to use the 402. I guess you've got to get in touch with the Firefox and the Chromium.
I think it's a little like going to Oz. You have to go see the wizard, and you have to get inside the castle, and you have to have a magic key, and they have a lot of meetings, and you have to speak Swiss, and there's a lot of like
Schweizerdeutsch.
Yeah, Swiss Deutsch. Like there's a lot of like hurdles between you and that magic 402 thing. Because it moves very slowly, and the old man has to walk up, and the baby, and there's all kinds of things.
Yeah. But folks, I mean, have you used Lightning? That's what I want to see. Have you guys used Lightning? Have you?
Let's do it. I got my phone right here. Josh, you got some Lightning on your phone?
I got some Lightning. Yeah,
I got some Lightning on my phone. So let's see.
I got some Bitcoin. You know, that's what it is. It's Bitcoin. It's pre-confirmed Bitcoin.
I got Wallet of Satoshi right here.
Yeah, I got Blue Wallet.
A month ago, I sent 2,000 sats. It was 41 cents.
That's
cool. So, Josh, why don't you?
I'll send you 2,000 sats.
All right, let me see. I'm going to receive, or you going to receive?
Oh, I'll send you.
All right, so I'm going to push the receive button. And, okay, unlike with normal Bitcoin, you don't just use a generic QR code. You generally add the amount. So I'm going to put 2,000 sats in here. It says it's 7 cents. Right. So when I put 7 cents, I'm using Wallet of Satoshi on the iPhone.
I'll scan here.
See if my crap camera will focus. Come on, camera. You're a good camera, but
you can do it. It's very blurry. Pull it back a little bit.
It's still there. We go.
There we go. Hey.
So there it is.
Okay, I'm gonna pay that. Let's see. Boom. Done.
There it is. Payment. It's already received.
Yeah,
so it's already done. So all the idea that Bitcoin's not fast enough or there's too much fees, we just did it right there on the Lightning Network.
How much did I pay? I don't even know. Let's see.
Says a few seconds ago, someone sent me 200 sats. It's 6 cents.
Yeah.
So there you go. And I mean, I have $300 here. You know, it's 1,000,000 sats. I'm a baller. But yeah, this is called Wallet of Satoshi. You can't see it that well. It's on the iPhone. I'll try to use my magic to make it more visible. But yeah, if you guys want to, I don't know how you can share us your thing in the chat, but there's some way we could do this. But
look, the beautiful thing is that back in the day, you used to do that and on Bitcoin, and it was fine because you sent them, but the fees started to become extraordinary now. Even if it's $3, it's a little bit too much. So the whole point to scale is to have a second layer. And the beautiful thing is with the second layer is that I opened pretty much a bar tab with another channel, and that channel is linked to another channel, which is linked to a channel that maybe Thomas has, and it just travels through all these people and hits Thomas. And the great thing is that you can actually take those sats and put them on chain if you really wanted to, but you really aren't paying much at all for every transaction. You just pay once you want to have that the final settlement. So just like a barman, you want to just pay once at the end of the night instead of paying for each drink, and you also want to maybe pay other people in the bar, so through the barman, and maybe the barman has a tab with another bar where you can pay a Patreon of that bar. It gets really quite big fast, that network. So I'm really hoping to see some of the stuff that's being built on Lightning becoming more mainstream. I would really like to see the unbanked, truly unbanked, using Lightning Network.
It looks like the Jitsi screen share is breaking or broken. So I'm having trouble. Here we go. Block temporarily. Why did that happen? Allow it. All right. We have to do this every time. But I did manage to get my phone up on the computer screen here.
Oh,
you can see right here, this is a representation of my phone.
Nice.
So you can see this is Wallet of Satoshi. So if you guys want to go install this is a Lightning wallet. You can use it to access faucets. I know Ben used to have a couple of Lightning faucets where you could scan the QR code and then you could get a small reward in Lightning so that you could try out the Lightning network.
Yeah.
And a lot of the work we really need to do this next year here on the World Crypto Network is getting you guys comfortable with Lightning. And this is not fun, right? Because what this means is that all of the knowledge you had about Bitcoin is now worthless, right? It's like the knowledge I have about a 386 computer and how to install Windows 3.1, right? Windows 95 is here and your knowledge is worthless now. Welcome to the Lightning Network.
But it built no, I mean, your economic education sticks around long term, and that's why the fundamentals count.
It's still good. Your knowledge is still okay, but there's in another
let's do another 200. I really like that.
Okay, so right here I just want to go over the basic features of this wallet and how it's similar to a Bitcoin wallet, but different. The Satoshis that I have here are on the Lightning Network. I don't really own or have these Satoshis. This is a hosted wallet, right? So all the stuff about Lightning channels, I don't know anything about. The Wallet of Satoshi company, whoever they are, they're having to handle those channels. So all of that is being obscured away from me as a user. I have your normal options, send, scan at the bottom of the screen, and I have receive at the top. But the reason that I need to put the amount in when I do receive is because that's kind of generating the invoice. That's kind of generating the whole thing. So,
and by the way, just before we move on there, on chain, you're also trusting a lot of every mobile wallet deals with another server running the blockchain. So you're trusting on chain as well that another server is telling the truth to you that you got these Bitcoin or that and things like this. So it's important to remember that the notion of trustlessness is a scale, and it's not either 1 or 0, and there's levels. So you can run like a Raspberry Blitz server, so you can run your own channels. You can also run your own Lightning nodes on your phone as well. It's just that every time you fire it up, it needs to start syncing.
And this is the kind of thing that we need to go into more detail on, and we need to spend like pretty much. I saw this great thing on CPG Gray or CP Gray. I don't even know how to say his name, but he's a YouTuber. He does those animations and they're really thoughtful. You've probably seen a lot of them, even if you don't know who he is. But he did a great thing about themes. And he said, let's not have resolutions, right? That's just too specific, too difficult. You break it, you ruined it. Let's have a theme, right? So one of our themes this year on the World Crypto Network is going to be Lightning. And it's going to be like Josh says, saying, what's the difference between Wallet of Satoshi or hosting your own Lightning node on your phone, hosting your own Lightning node on your computer, having a little box that does your Lightning node for you, like a Casa or a Nodal or one of those things. And I think we need to just kind of go back to the basics, as not fun as that is. We want to be flying fast in hyperspace, right? It's much more fun to talk about the future and what we can do and all kinds of stuff like that. But going back to the basics is also really valuable. So in the basics of this Lightning wallet, you just push receive. Like I say, it's important to put in an amount because of how it works these days. I put in 2,000, get my big 65 cents here out of Josh.
So you generate an invoice, just like in the real world. When you want to get paid, you generate an invoice.
So the main difference between on-chain is that with on-chain, I would usually just develop a QR code with my address. Now, Josh, what he's saying there, invoice, that means QR code with address and amount. So that's the main technical difference that we're talking here, is that normally I could put out a QR code and you decide the amount. In Lightning, it's just generally done. It's like a coding convention. It's like a manner of speaking or a style. It's something we just need to learn our Lightning style. And in our Lightning style, you put the amount in.
Yeah, nice.
So Josh, on your end,
okay, let's scan this here.
So it's similar to a Bitcoin address. You scan it in, but like I said, the scan is now a two-part scan. You're getting an amount and an address. And the other thing about this little invoice package here that we've made, it expires.
So I'm hitting send now. Boom. Done.
And see how fast that was? Josh could barely even say it before it was here. And, he's in Germany. I'm in the United States. We're all over the world here, right? And that was still that fast. And the money's still transferred, right? Josh, can I cancel that? Can you cancel this and get your money?
It's done. And the thing is, it's pre-confirmed, folks. These, when you wait for a confirmation with Bitcoin, you have to wait 10 minutes. And when you have to, and Bitcoin Cash is something else, and Litecoin is something else. I think Bitcoin Cash is also 10 minutes actually. But a lot of these other chains, they say, "Ooh, well, we you can't reverse these transactions because in Bitcoin they put a special thing that you can actually double spend them until they've been confirmed." And actually, you can do that on Bitcoin Cash too. You can double spend them. This notion that you can't double spend them is not true. All they did was made it easier on Bitcoin because you can do it. So people like Peter Todd and the like were like, look, if you can double spend, the very knowledgeable will double spend you. And the people that don't won't. So it's better that we make it really easy so everyone doesn't trust zero confirmations, because otherwise people will be ripped off for a lot of money. So we need to make it superfluous. So on Bitcoin Cash, you could write a program to basically spend the same inputs than what you've just sent out. So just with a higher fee, so the miners grab that stuff. There are other blockchains that have dealt with that, like Dash. They've dealt with it slightly differently, and there are other solutions. But I think the Lightning Network is a really good solution because what you're doing is you're actually setting up a pre-confirmation. I've already sent this like months ago. I set up this. So this would have so many confirmations now. It would have thousands of confirmations.
Josh, let's talk about the steps that my wallet obfuscated, right? Behind the scenes, my wallet did a lot of things for me that I don't have to know about. But we're technical people in the audience are technical. They might want to know about it. They might want to set up their own nodes. So basically my generic understanding of the Lightning Network is at some point you take some Bitcoin. You take, let's say, $100 in Bitcoin. I don't even know what that is in here. 0.0, it's really small now. It's like 0.001 or something. So you take that, and with a transaction, you kind of send that money to the Lightning Network. That money gets a check in the book. It's on the blockchain. It's now more like Lightning money.
No, almost.
Once it's in there, it's all these little IOUs that are being sent around, all these passed around person to person, like the hot dog in the stadium. He passes the hot dog to him, pass the hot dog to him, pass the hot dog to him. Everybody takes a very, very, very small little bite of the hot dog, smaller than you could even see. And then by the end of it, I get a hot dog, like many little small bites, but generally most of the hot dogs there, and I'm happy.
That's the grossest analogy.
Well, everybody, especially in the pandemic, it's even worse. All those people eating my hot dog. But at the end of the day, if I wanted to cash that Lightning out for Bitcoin directly, not using third parties or anything, all this, I would then again pay that transaction fee to then take that money off of the Lightning Network, put it back onto the on-chain Bitcoin type of network, where I would then pay on-chain Bitcoin fees to send it around normally. Yeah, so normal people don't really go in and out of Lightning that much. If you have a setup like we're talking about, you have your own node, you have your own basically like a lightning little bank kind of thing, a little lightning central thing where you keep your money. You have that, and you have your node, and you put some lightning in there and you use it for your small transactions. And then every once in a while, you put some more in to use it for your small transactions. If you were a business like Starbucks and you were taking coffees for lightning, every once in a while, you'd have to cash those out to the real Bitcoin network. And that would be a whole thing you'd have to work out with your accountant and all that when you want to do it. And but for a normal person that's using these new wallets that obfuscates, which is a beautiful big word that means hide, it hides from you all of this complexity. So you don't have to know about it. What I did there with Wallet of Satoshi, they are holding the Lightning Bitcoin. They have paid a fee to move it onto the network. They are then giving some of it to my account or sending it out or whatever. And they are doing all of that. And then at the end of the day, when I want to cash out, I'm just really talking to them, and they have to send me some of their centralized stuff as real Bitcoin. And they could do that in a variety of ways. So that's
and this is just one solution. I mean, there are multiple, and for people to say like, oh, well, that means it's centralized. It's not. It's just that someone's made a centralized solution which is easier to use.
And we have a really good comment in the chat here. I'm gonna try to bring it up on the screen. No, it's not gonna work. Oh, there it is. But what the guy in the chat says is that I don't want to share my hot dog. And that's very much a part of what Josh is saying, that this is a little bit centralized. This is a little different than the way Bitcoin is set up, but this is also an acceptable change because the existing Bitcoin network is still there. So if you're rich and wealthy, you don't care, you can just send around, pay the fees. The fees aren't as much as people think if you're not in a hurry. If you want to take a week or two to send your money, because it doesn't matter, you can still pay very low fees. If you want to spend a couple days, you can pay low fees. So there are options. Here we go. Hello, caller, just a second. And the other option with the Lightning Network is just to think of it as a second pile of money. Like I was saying, money to pay for coffee, money to pay for little donations. And you don't really care that much if it's not private, if you donate $10 here or there, if you buy 100 coffees. Let's see. So now I'm going to pipe in the caller. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from? Oh, he's
Hey, Thomas. It's Arthur Park calling from London.
Hey, Arthur. How's it going? Welcome to the show. Happy birthday, Bitcoin.
Josh, too.
Hey, how you going, man? Good to hear from you.
I just thought I'd chip in on Genesis Day. What a god-awful year it's been. And weirdly, I have a stepfather on his deathbed who's been telling me for the last 3 years that Bitcoin is a Ponzi. And he we just sort of said our goodbyes last night.
Oh, and very sad, sir.
I'm only saying this because I'm on your show, but he said I may have been wrong. And he's hated banks all his life. They've kind of held his business back. He runs a hotel chain in central London. And it's a deeply moving end to what's just been a god-awful year. I mean, I'm talking to you from the country that managed to reportedly generate the mutant version of COVID. So good riddance to 2020.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. I always say it seems to be the year that was directed by David Lynch. It was just the strangest, wackiest year. In January, everything seemed fine. I started hearing these whispers of a strange virus coming out of Wuhan, and then it just got bigger and bigger. And actually, one of the things that I did notice is that a lot of the Bitcoiners did catch on to reading about COVID very early on, because I think we understand exponentiality a lot better than the normal man on the street, and network effects, and so it's, and some people, and I'm sorry to hear about your loss, by the way, but just on that a lot of the people that just saw Ponzi's is that the understanding of network effects and how powerful they are seems to fail some people before they can really grasp that how strong this is. And you can see this also with people that buy into a whole bunch of altcoins when because they're very cheap. They don't seem to realize that the network effect that Bitcoin has is so strong, and that's why you have the dominance. Even the idea of a dominance graph is amazing, because
I also think there's nothing wrong in the idea that that banks are strong and that they'll repel your attempts to overthrow them. For your stepfather, have the idea that the banks are strong and they're going to beat Bitcoin, even if he doesn't like the banks, which a lot of us don't like the banks. It's not unreasonable to see them as in a powerful position and to doubt Bitcoin, because what can these crazy computer geeks do?
Yeah.
And when I see that article, like these geeks memed Bitcoin into existence, it can be very hard for people to believe or to understand, but that's kind of what we did. Like these memes, these ideas like Bitcoin Lambo and Silk Road and all these other ideas, and then people actually implementing them, people actually making these trading things, making these exchanges, making wallets and all kinds of things where we can use Bitcoin did make it into an existence. So if you'd said in the very beginning that Bitcoin was the thing, you couldn't be confident in it. But now, if you look at what everyone's built, it really does seem like it might be the thing. So what a difference, huh?
On the COVID reference, I mean, I remember last Christmas seeing Chinese people YouTube videos dropping dead, which has since turned out to likely be fakes. Now, I don't want to get into the politics. I know you've gone against the sort of libertarian grain, Thomas, in your own treatment of the subject, and I respect that. And I've always tuned in also during the US elections to get your take on things, although I'm not in agreement with you on many issues of government intervention or responsibility. But what we're finding here is that suddenly, even though we have a Tory government in the form of Boris Johnson, they are relatively middle of the road. There's not a great difference between the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. And they did pre-order 20,000 vaccines, and they are getting out to people. And we do, we are very, God bless the National Health Service that we enjoy here.
Yeah.
Very lucky to have that. Yeah.
I mean, it's a tricky thing. I see that what COVID has really done is expose the health services of every country and how lacking they are. If you look back at headlines, and a lot of people have very short memories, but if you look back even 5 years ago at headlines in England, every month there's a headline like NHS packed to the brim, no beds available, people waiting outside to get a hospital bed. It's always at the brink of overflow, and now it's the same thing again with COVID, except this time it's really there's a lot more people, I feel that we have really a big highlight into hospitals and preparedness for general populace, waves of more people getting ill than usual, and just the system not being able to cope. And we see that NHS. I have talked to doctors that work in the NHS, and they see that there are a lot of flaws in having socialized healthcare, but there's also a lot of benefits to having socialized healthcare. I don't think it's a panacea, and there's also a vast amount of absolute despicable policy that you see when you have total private healthcare that doesn't totally interact with the poor, where you have far too expensive coverage for beds, because it's all distorted. And then on top of that, you have manipulations of certain, doctors demanding that only doctors can take swabs of people's tongues and put them into a nurse can't possibly do that. And so, and there are only so many doctors, so they get paid a lot more. And there's so many distortions to think of.
We do want
to
cut in here and make sure everyone's watching the price of Bitcoin. We just broke through 33,000. Then we broke through 33,100, then 33,200. What's nice about the Bitcoinal chart here is it seems to bring up a new little GIF every $100 we break through. So I just wanted to mention that while Josh was talking. Go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
No, I mean, I was on a bit of a rant there, but I think that a lot of people, they say, oh, well, socialized medicine's the way to go, or private medicine's the way to go, but there are so many cons and pros to the different systems that I don't think it's so black and white. And most people are just obsessed with the black and white, and I guess it makes for an easy narrative. But
well, the general idea in the United States that it's an economic problem if you get sick, not a societal problem, seems to be largely disproven by this pandemic. If we could just wave our hand tomorrow and make everyone in the United States a member of the House of Representatives for a single day, after they were a member, they would get lifetime health care as well as a nice retirement plan. And I think that would be better for everyone, better for society. But then we have to go back and forth with those larger questions about what we should do with our money and what we should do with our society. And now we're into a major political discussion.
Yeah.
Well, again, that's just how it happens. And it's just, and again, I think if we really want to discuss these things at a larger level, we can always discuss these things and we can agree and disagree and we can have different points of view. But the most important thing for me is that we can still discuss them. I saw somebody said in the comments yesterday, they said they disagree with my politics, but they like the shows and they like that I state my opinion and so forth. And I think that's a fine way to be, because you can keep your own politics. You certainly don't have to adopt mine. But at the same time, I get the right to say mine. You get to say yours. We got the open phone line here. We're glad to talk to anybody. But yeah, it's been wild with the COVID. It really has like pouring water into a box. It's helped us find the holes in our society. And a lot of them people thought weren't holes. And also I feel with kind of the anti-vax thing and the anti-COVID thing and the conspiracy thing, it's also kind of exposed our educational issues. And a lot of people want to believe in this stuff because it's simpler. And if you look at more details, it's less simple. And the same thing with civics and politics in the United States, the idea of being an interactive participant in society. That's what our society is. And it's an obvious quote and a steal from The West Wing. But and the American President movie written by the same guy. But this is advanced citizenship, right? You do have to go out and study. You do have to think about your policies, and that. Sorry about that. Something make noise. But and that this thinking can improve the system. That by spending thought on it, we can have better discussions. We can have higher level discussions. We can have less emotional discussions, and that's improvement. And that when we see things slide back and we can't have these discussions. That's where it goes. But Arthur, let's get back to Bitcoin. What did you think? We were talking earlier about major events in Bitcoin history. Is there anything that sticks out to you that felt like a major event that we lived through in our Bitcoin times?
Yes, I've had to plug my headphones into a different thing, so I don't know if I'm syncing with you properly at the moment. But the major event for me,
headphones are great.
Okay, the major event was the World Crypto Network live show that you and Tone and a few other, I think Jimmy, on the Bitcoin Cash fork. That was a classic. And more recently, obviously, it's things like Michael Saylor and the institutions piling in. But gosh, I can't help but visit RBTC on Reddit, and to hear the constant whining and whinging about Blockstream running Bitcoin and block size never being scalable. I just wish we could shut them up for once and for all. It's slightly hateful, but I really hope to see Lightning integration into mainstream wallets and this getting around this kind of invoicing that you have to do with Lightning payments, so that we can turn around and say we're cheap and cheerful and private.
That was an exciting day when the Bcash split off, and the World Crypto Network was really booming that day. I think we got like 60,000 views on that video. We had hundreds of people in the chat, lots of comments. And then behind the scenes, I was just twittering everyone I know. I was like, will you join the chat? Will you join the chat? And just sending the link out to person after person to try to generate that incredible lineup and all those fun people we had. So it was a good time. The Bitcoin price has just broken through 3,000 Satoshis. It's right around the $1 to 3,000 Satoshi level. Not sure that we've never seen that breached before. We're at a new all-time high for Bitcoin. It says the recent all-time high was 34,873. So we are a little below that, but we're definitely of an all-time high where I've been watching it. A watched pot never boils, but apparently this one does.
Josh, are you in the UK?
We're the business is registered as a UK business, and I'm often there. But since this COVID thing, I've been over with our team over here in Berlin, and living in Berlin. Yeah.
Oh, good. So you'll be selling us your BMWs at quota tax-free prices under our wonderful new Brexit deal.
Yeah. It's been tricky, the whole Brexit, for us, because we haven't known what will happen in terms of passporting banking regulations or crypto regulations, or what will happen with the FCA. It's been a definite challenge to sort of preempt what's going to happen. But I guess everybody in the UK is in on the same boat.
Do you think Satoshi might have been a Brit? I like to think so.
Yeah, I mean, definitely think there might have been something there. I remember reading an article about one fellow that was from the UK. I mean, the UK have had a lot of absolute brilliant mathematicians, of course, coming out of the system there. So I definitely think there are some brilliant cryptographers. So yeah, I mean, he could have.
It's also a funny point to say how the British have treated their mathematicians, and that maybe Satoshi would have learned from what happened to Turing, and preferred to stay quiet and silent.
Yeah, and maybe Satoshi was gay as well.
Dun dun dun! Oh, Josh, you've got a whole new line of T-shirts right there. You need to be the first to that. Nobody can stop that, man. Satoshi is a female. And why not? Why not? Satoshi is gay. It's a great T-shirt idea. I'm not going to do it, but you could do it. It could be. They'd definitely be pink. Again, easy.
Yeah, and God, she's black.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's I sometimes think about the whole group thing, whether Satoshi was a group, but I don't really buy it. I think, in terms of the group, was definitely the whole cypherpunks building the puzzle pieces, and Satoshi managed to take all those pieces and build a beautiful picture that worked in a game theoretical perfect machine, perpetual sort of mathematical machine that we have. But I do feel that it was a single person that seemed to sort of one day wake up and think, my God, if we use the proof of work of Adam Back, if we use the Merkle trees from Ralph, and I think it definitely was one person.
I like that. I like that idea as well. Like. It reminds me of Linux and all of the GNU tools that Stallman and other people built, and that Linus comes along and says, "Hey, I can take these GNU tools, build an operating system. We'll call it Linux." And everything changes.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Arthur. I cut you off there, man.
Can't remember what I was talking about. About the Britishness. I once read an article that mounted quite a bit of evidence pointing to a British programmer and tracking his movements and how he kind of just disappeared. around the same time that Satoshi did. And I can't for the life of me find it. It's like it's been eradicated from the web. And you'll see the top 20 most likely candidates from, I don't know, who's the Blockstream guy?
Well, there's Adam Back. A lot of people say.
Adam Back, your
and,
buddy.
Nick
with the
Scabo.
satellite.
Nick Scabo. A lot of people say there was an early linguistic analysis where they said that Satoshi typed with 2 spaces after a period. Therefore, it must be Nick Scabo. Something like that. But it was more detailed, of course. There's been a lot of that. Let's see. The other one, there was a guy that went to prison. He was involved with kind of like the mob and drugs and all that kind of thing. And the reason there that they thought he was Satoshi is because the money hadn't moved for so long, probably because he's stuck in prison and he can't trust anybody to go get his keys for his million Bitcoin. And at the same time, he just can't get there. So that was an interesting one. Like Josh said, I like the Satoshi Trinity. It appeals to my religious upbringing and so forth, that there would be 3 people that made Bitcoin: an old man, a young man, and a guy with like random knowledge. And the random knowledge guy is the one that's like, don't be like Prometheus. Don't go out there and tell the gods that you've stolen fire from them. Make a big deal about it. Get chained to a rock. Have a bird come back every day and eat your liver out. Don't do that, right? You know, that's a special kind of intelligence. That's not computer programming intelligence or economic intelligence. That's kind of like street smarts, right? Where you're like, yeah, don't overthrow the government in public. You know, don't overthrow the economic system in public. Don't sign your name. As the movie Hackers would say, don't hack a bank across state lines from your house. Right? So there's somebody out there that has that intelligence, and it could just be one guy with a really good brain that can think all these different ways and does all these thought experiments and is really, really good at what he does, really focused on the details. He's diligent.
Well, I know most people think he's likely dead now, but I hope he's not. I hope he's sitting somewhere quietly and enjoying the fruits of his invention, or his or her, or
that's why I like
them.
That's why I like Ben's theory. Ben from this channel, you guys know Ben. He says all the time that he thinks it's Peter Todd, or at least Peter Todd could be part of the Satoshi Trinity. And what's so great about Peter is he's in the background of every Bitcoin conference on his laptop, not paying attention. Every once in a while, he asks a sarcastic or a mean question, trying to tear apart someone's ideas, trying to get to the truth of it, because he doesn't care about the social conventions and all that. And if he was the Satoshi, just quietly sitting there all the time, we all know him, we've all hung out with him, it would just be so fun. I think it would be just the most fun thing. But
so what do you guys think now? You know, we're seeing these ridiculous all-time highs. One thing that scares me with that we're seeing multiple $1,000 moves every day. We're seeing a lot of action on Vaultoro. People are buying gold like crazy at the moment. Especially we've got this new OTC thing we launched a few weeks ago. So it's been really going nuts because I if you look at the graph, it really looks like another huge parabolic move, which it is, and seems to be. I personally hate these moves. I really wish it would just slow the hell down so that we could find a floor and go much higher. But a lot of people are like, yeah, go. But I don't see it as a good thing. Where do you guys think? Do you think we're going to see a floor at maybe 35, at 40? Are we going to see a bump down? I know that this is all sort of speculation and ridiculous to even call, but it's always interesting to hear people's takes.
My crystal ball is murky, and I don't really care, to be honest. I mean, the one sat to a cent theory, I think, might have been close to what Satoshi was thinking. So we've got a long way to go, and I don't need to. I mean, I'm mid-50s, and I have a couple of I have type 1 diabetes, so I'm going to want to spend some in 5 years' time, but not before then.
Nice. Very good.
I think just generally, without any evidence or any kind of triangles or charts, it just feels like it'll go to 50K or probably 48.72 or something, not all the way. And then it'll drop back down to 20. And everyone will say, oh no, we've crashed to 20. And everyone else is like, what are you kidding? 20 is still great. This is amazing. What the hell's happening? You know, I wish I had more, all that. But yeah, it just feels like and again, 50 could be the wrong number. Maybe it goes to 100. Maybe it goes to 150 or 250. And then it crashes down to 75. It's going to be one of those things. We hit some other big number or close to it. Because remember, big numbers are hard to reach. So if you're waiting for, 25 even or 35 even or 50K on the nose and I'm going to sell, do yourself a favor and sell at 48. Sell at 48, 275. Like, let's get out of these big numbers. Even right now, 33,652 is almost the same as 35. Let me tell you. And
thanks, Tom. I sold an Ether today at $900, so I'm glad you're you got it along the same line.
You got it, and it's hard because 1,000 is a big round number. There's a 4 at 25,000. 4 Bitcoin is worth 100K. Big round numbers, right? But no, as hard as it is, it would be better to have 87K or 93K. Than to risk it going back down and getting 75K or 65K or whatever, or worse. So yeah, that is one thing to keep in mind. But again, I don't know where the big number is. I don't know if the big number is 35 or 50 or 250. Rolando in the chat says 200K or above.
The institutions have been saying the bottom forecast from institutions is now 400K. I mean, some are gone double and triple that. So, I mean, if Wall Street is throwing these kind of numbers around, why not think big?
Yeah. I just, I really want to see some sort of chillness coming just for a week, 2 weeks.
It's not the way the world works, though, Josh, is it? I mean,
no.
We've got the retail FOMOing in on the back of the institutions now. But less volatility via institutions would be nice, but we've never really been in that school of piranhas, have we?
Yeah, well, what I find fascinating in this space is that people constantly talk about like institutions being the smart money. That was the big thing in the 90s, the smart money, the smartest guy in the room, all this sort of nomenclature. And really what I've seen in the crypto space is that they are just as dumb as the common person, the investor, because I see the same sort of hype whereas the price goes up. Sorry,
go ahead, Josh.
The same sort of hype as the price goes up from VCs, from institutions now piling in, and then on the way down, they're like, oh no, VCs are like, oh no, Bitcoin's dead, all this sort of stuff, and it's the same stuff, and it's so strange because you think of these institutions being clever, but I feel that I would be very, very careful with if I was a CEO, not long term, not on a 10-year basis, but jumping in now with my shareholders' money. I would be very wary. I definitely would also be wary of keeping too much of the shareholders' money in the bank. That's for sure. But in terms of Bitcoin, when it goes up and up, I would be definitely wary because as a CEO, once you're fired, you study a long time, you get your MBA, you do this, all that, and you become the CEO. Suddenly, you make the decision, right? We're going to put a whole bunch of money in of the shareholders of the company into the of this fund or whatever into Bitcoin because Michael Saylor's going all around the place, and then suddenly it drops, like we've seen over and over again in Bitcoin, and that's when the CEOs' heads will roll. They'll never get a job again until Bitcoin goes back up, and then they can say in long term it was the right decision, but now I'm out of a job and can't.
But Josh, listen, why don't you look for those of us that I came in 2016, early 2016, enjoyed the run up in 2017, and then have had to sit through a bear market
Yeah.
for 3 years.
Yeah.
Can we not just enjoy, scary as it might be, a little fiat pumpermental?
Absolutely. A little pumpermental is true. No, absolutely. And we should really
cash on my hex, by the way. So I've got to give a shout out to Bitcoin Meister for encouraging us to cash in the crypto dividends, as he calls them.
Yeah. No, that's true. It is important to take some, and this is exactly why we're getting so much movement on Voltura at the moment, because the other thing is people are scared of their bank accounts getting frozen. I've had multiple friends when they cash out, even if it's just a few thousand, the banks go, whoop, that came from some crypto exchange. What is this? Where is this? Show proof. And they had their accounts totally frozen for like months. And they had to really pull down their pants and show everything, where everything came from, to get their bank accounts unfrozen. And I know one guy who's never got it unfrozen, even though it was all legit. And so, this is why I think getting into other things like metals, and this is why I find the ridiculous farce that is the gold is dead sort of meme in Bitcoin ridiculous, because gold's a fantastic way of, and silver, any sort of precious metal, anything, even houses, forestry, anything that's real and tangible to take profits out of into is great. The great thing about gold, it's extremely liquid. So it's the second most liquid market in the world under the FX markets. So it's a wonderful way of storing something in something that you actually own. Yeah, sure, it's it comes with its risk profile as well, but it's much better than the banks. I'm just so sad that Bitcoiners sit there fighting gold bugs and gold bugs fighting Bitcoiners, when we could be all together fighting this ridiculous banking infrastructure that we've had to live through and get force fed onto us for so many years.
And welcome to the All That Glitters show. Or is it glisters? I think the real quote is all that glisters is not gold.
Oh, is it? Is all that glisters?
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't realize that.
Learning to learn T.S. Eliot at school.
Yeah.
Depends if you're quoting Stairway to Heaven or not.
That's.
Is there a bustle in your hedgerow?
Yeah, it's light.
But yeah, I did have a fun video I was going to share with you guys here. This is from November 12th, 2013. This is my good friend James D'Angelo. He's got the World Bitcoin Network over there. We did the World Crypto Network. No one remembers either, but they're both there. And what James used to talk about was the S curve. And this is back when Bitcoin was like $300. So you can see him showing it as 100% growth would be from 340 to 3,000, only 3,000. But you can see the way James is driving the S curve right here in the back, or the part in the center where it goes straight up. And they're saying in the chat, maybe we're in this right now. And James used as an example Twitter and Facebook. And that in the early parts, we couldn't invest in Twitter and Facebook, right? This is all early VC. It goes up and down, right? 100%, 1,000% up and down, but we can't invest. Eventually we can invest. Then it goes straight up. This is the viral growth part. And this is also funny because this is what Josh is talking about with the virus. A lot of the Bitcoin people are startup people who spent their time studying viral growth as a good thing. When Twitter and Facebook go viral, they have thousands of new users every day. When Bitcoin goes viral, the same thing. And that's a good thing. But when the COVID virus goes viral, thousands of new infections a day, that's bad. But in the same way, it happens with this S curve, with this point in the middle where it goes straight up. And what they're saying in the chat is maybe this is the start of the S curve. And that's one of the problems, is we can never tell if we're in this big one here where everything goes completely insane, or if we're in one of these earlier, smaller ones. And a lot of the earlier ones that we felt, like when it went to $300, that was insane. When it went from there to $1,200 or $1,400, that was insane. The run from there to $12,000, felt pretty insane. The run from there up to 19,000 was insane, and then now we're at 33. So is this the one? And we can't really answer it until afterwards. That's the other fun thing. And the other neat thing is, like James's chart here, this is probably that 1400, or this is the 1900, or this is the 1400. This is the early run that meant so much to us. And then before it, down here, this little mark here, that was the $300 run that was so exciting. So as time goes on, these smaller runs that seemed like they were the one, you know, they were the Jesus.
Yeah.
They're not the one, right? They're just, I don't know what happened to your phone there, man, but turn you down. They're just another John the Baptist, right? They're just not quite the Jesus. I don't know. Arthur, you still with us? You have a lot of excitement.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to let you go because I've got another tab open with the Tones rubbish on, and he's making some stupid anti-election protests. I think I'm going to chime in and give him my 2 cents. But your discussion of S-curves reminds me of Beverly Hills Cop. You remember they're sitting in a restaurant, and the guy is telling a joke about the car with an S on the top, and he says, "Look at that S car go."
Audience of 16 people.
Live streaming is on.
All right, we're back. We fixed it. Go ahead. Arthur's going to tell us a second joke. Go ahead.
Yes, so I'm a bit of an inventor at heart. I like to fiddle around. And I've invented a thermos with no liquid capacity. It was a tankless flask.
No, this is the joke for engineers.
I think I got that off a Bitcoin Reddit group.
The joke for engineers. Josh, were you going to say who would put a playground in the middle of a toilet, a sewer area?
Yeah, exactly.
Something about that.
Something like that. Wonderful. Well, I have to actually head off as well. It's been really nice celebrating Satoshi's birthday here on the World Crypto Network. I just feel really honored to be part of this community and to help serve this community. And I look forward to the next 10 years and seeing where this S curve. I heard, by the way, where is DeFranco? I haven't seen him for ages.
Franco coin or DeSantis?
No, the guy D'Angelo. Sorry.
Well, it's an interesting story on the old Facebooks and the Twitters and such. Quite a few years back now, James wrote an article about secret votes in Congress, and they used to have a rule in the United States Congress before the 70s that a lot of the votes would be secret. And at the time, the founders had set this up to protect those committees. In the 70s, Richard Nixon opened up these votes, and it was part of the idea that sunshine is the best disinfectant. And if we just expose everything and make it public, there'll be less corruption. And sometimes this is true, and it's an interesting idea, but sometimes it's not true. In this case, according to James's research, and I agree, making the votes public allowed the lobbyists to find out if they got a good return on their investment. Previously, you lose a vote 10-3. You don't know who the 3 are that voted against you, right? Now, you know every time. And sure, the public knows, but I can't do anything. I'm not a lobbyist. But a lobbyist that has a lot of money can now say, well, we're giving money to your opponent because you voted against us on this thing. And so in that case, this sunshine was actually negative. And in a very counterintuitive take, James wrote a serious academic article and a series of articles on this. And he set up a little congressional research institute to try to expose this idea and hopefully restore this useful privacy to the Senate and to the Congress. And yes, it's an incongruous idea. You're going to have to think about it a lot, that this privacy actually serves us and that losing this privacy actually served the well-funded lobbyists. So as far as I know, that's what James is up to. He was totally right on Bitcoin. His S-curve video is brilliant. I loved all of his videos.
I loved all of his videos too.
He was a professor, a college professor before, so he has that teaching sartorial style. He's really good at presentation. And yeah, certainly I wish he'd kept going with the Bitcoin videos, but he was more interested in the congressional idea. So he went.
One of the things I loved that he brought out was the idea of sloppy wallets. So I remember seeing that years and years when he first came out with that, and I always thought it was brilliant. And what it is that you have some wallet.dat files lying around on computers with a small amount of Bitcoin on it, maybe $100, $200 or whatever, and then you have a watch app on your phone that watches those addresses. Now, if your computer gets compromised, because those are just lying about the place, the hacker might find them and take them, and you'll get an alarm straight away going bloop bloop, which is, it'll cost you $200. It's a $200 alarm, but oh my God, my computer's been compromised. Quick, lock everything down, move my keys, and everything else. And I always thought the idea of a sloppy wallet was great.
That is a good idea. It's like a tripwire. If someone breaks into your computer and they steal your $10, you could protect your $1,000 because it would be harder to get to.
Yeah. So that was a great one. He also, I think he had some family over in more of a developing country, as far as I can remember one of his videos, and he used to use Bitcoin to send over there to his stepson or to his son or something like that. I'm probably totally can't remember the details here, but he was always a very interesting guy, and he had great videos. So I really wish he would come back to the space. I miss that guy.
I'll have to find my picture of James. We did get to hang out once in the real world. He came to San Francisco, and I think we even went to my karaoke place in J-Town. But yeah, it was great to meet James and great to hang with James. He was a good guy when we hung out as well. So
yeah. All right. Well,
I'll say goodnight too now. Josh, I hope I run into you in London sometime.
I hope so too.
And Thomas, I hope to run into you on Stonehenge or Arthur's Seat or one of those wonderful National Trust or English heritage sites you haven't managed to visit yet. I know there's still plenty for you to see at the Victoria and Albert Museum. Oh
yeah. I just got to run through that one. I've seen like all the rooms once when I was running, and there was so much more. I don't know the V&A, but it is a big museum. It is on par. Well, I love the British Museum, but it's very close to the British Museum. So thanks so much.
Maybe you're not in Vegas anymore, Thomas, right?
No, right now I'm back in Sacramento. But again,
okay.
it's just as good as being anywhere. I'm staying inside, watching Cobra Kai, avoiding the virus like everybody else. So as long as I got some good internet and my computers and some books and stuff, I'm fine. So
okay, maybe Gate Crash Tone Stream later. I'm sure he'd be really happy to hear from you.
I was invited, but we have very large political differences at this point, and it's probably just best to let that lie. Even you mentioning the election, I was going to go into it, and I was going to say how the petition right now that they're trying to do, it really only challenges the counting of the Electoral College votes, and all the states have certified them. So it's like saying, we sent a vote worth 20. Did you get it? It was 20. Yes, it's 20. There's no dispute here. So yes, it's very,
he's flogging a dead horse.
It's very well. I hope so, but I mean, they had another dead horse called the Reichstag, and there was a big fire, and suddenly their dead horse was in charge. So no, we got to be very careful. We're very close to a coup in the United States. We have a lot of people representing anti-democratic values. In a democracy, when you lose the election, you don't keep fighting.
But man, there are some sketchy shit through the counting. There are, and
Josh,
it doesn't matter what side you're on. If you have sketchy shit going on, you gotta.
But Josh, you actually have to prove that. When I make an accusation like stop beating your wife, you actually have to show a point where you're beating your wife.
Yeah, but there's
sorry, man. There's no wife beating here.
But if there's, what if
they lost, man?
But how can you say that there's people pulling out boxes?
I can't because there's no evidence, man.
But there is no evidence.
They went to court, man. They went to court a bunch of times. They went to court
with judges with my own eyes. The video
judges that your size chose, and they went to court, and those judges threw them out on their ass for not having evidence.
But hang on.
When you make a charge, You have to have evidence.
But I've seen the
Real evidence. You've seen
But I've
one
seen the
video.
evidence.
You've seen
No,
one
I've
video
seen
that we don't know about.
videos.
Like,
I've seen multiple videos, and it's like,
oh, yeah, come on, man. It's ridiculous. It's a fucking joke. It's
no,
ridiculous.
look,
It's anti-democratic.
in
If your side didn't want,
2016,
you
there
would
was
say it's good.
also fraud. So, like,
Again, that's whataboutism. We're changing the subject. Talk about this subject. Give me your hard evidence. Give me your hardest evidence. Who's the best one? Who came up and swore? Who said, I swear? Who put their hand on the Bible and swore? Did you win any court cases? You had 49 court cases. You lost them all. Your lawyers are being disbarred. You don't have any evidence.
there's a lot of evidence.
Man. I'm really sorry. And you lost by 7 million votes above the Electoral College. So you don't have a mandate. You don't have a popular vote. You don't have any evidence. It's not like when Al Gore did it. Like, if you want to talk about 2000, you want to talk about 2004, flip-flopping the votes in Ohio. The computer guy for George W. Bush
the American elections,
small airplane, right? But that's 2004. I can say whataboutism about anything. What about the Dreyfus affair? What about France? Like, we can say, what about this? In this case, you don't have any evidence. You lost 49.
That's not true. There is evidence. But that's the thing that people keep saying. There's no evidence. There's no evidence. But there's evidence. Here it is. No, there's no evidence. There's no evidence.
You haven't presented anything, though. I'm waiting for you to. Like, this person said that this vote was no good. You don't have it, man. What you have is you have a cycle of propaganda. The way it works is like this. I make a false claim. The sky is red. Then a bunch of people say, I heard from somebody that the sky is red. And then I go back and I say, a lot of people have been saying that the sky is red and we need to do something about it.
No, but what about the video footage of people stopping counting? There's like 4 people. They're starting to pull boxes and boxes out.
We have to know everything about that one place. First of all, from the numbers, like, how pregnant is she? Were there enough votes counted in that one facility with your one video to change the election? First off, straight numbers, straight science. Give me the math. You know it's not true. So you know that just if every single vote that came out of that precinct,
I think it was like 30,000 votes or something after that.
Okay, it's not enough. It's not enough.
Yeah, but even that,
you're pregnant or you're not pregnant. Come on, and you can't just say, "Oh, there was a bad vote here, therefore there's bad votes everywhere else." Right?
No, that's fair enough.
Specific votes. You don't have the numbers to change the whole election with one precinct. And we also don't have the individual information about that precinct, where the ballots were previously, why they were under that table.
But I think there's a lot more here. I think China, I think the CCP is
self-enforcing cycle. You don't have any facts.
I definitely have facts.
You get something fake that makes you think more about it, then you cycle. It's a propagandic cycle, man. It's
no, but you have the problem that on your side is that you have a wish, a hope that he doesn't win.
No,
right?
he won by more than 7 million votes in the popular vote.
Blinkers on because you don't want to see any evidence.
Again, dude, it's how you destroy a democracy. And you start by casting doubt in the institutions and in the idea of truth. And you say that you can't believe in truth anymore. And this was done in Nazi Germany. And it's being done here. And the people that are in it are so far gone, they're like a cult.
Man,
right?
It's the other way around. It's the other way around.
And when you try to deprogram, they get upset. Trust me, man. This is the end of America. We're watching it live. And these people are traitors. They're traitors to the idea of democracy. The idea that after the vote,
idea of democracy needs to be questioned every time.
No, if you do that, you're leading to authoritarianism. What's going to happen is you think that everything's fine because Trump or God or whoever it is becomes president, becomes king. And you're like, everything's great now. Then the king starts abusing you. You say, I wish we had those democratic controls on the king, right? I wish we had that democracy, but we don't have it anymore because we gave it up in a short-term moment where we were hit by a cycle of propaganda that cycled on us.
So what about all these people that were told they're not allowed to watch the election? They're not allowed to watch. They have to be, and then putting big barriers up so that no one can see who's counting.
Look at the environment that we're in. there was a big virus this year. So what I think imagine happened is
What? So that you
have
need to
the
put
virus,
covers
they
so people
spread
can't
people
see?
out, and they spread people out so you couldn't see the signatures as well, and they had to do different things because of the virus. So yes, is it different?
You could
Yes.
pass the
system
message.
was
you could-
changed to be different. Is there a reason for it to be different? Yes, there's a reason for it to be different. Would it be different in the future if we didn't have the COVID virus? Yes, it's most likely that it would retract to the old way. So yes, you found a difference. Congratulations, you found a difference. Now, does that difference mean that the entire system was controlled and conspiracied, and that tens of thousands of votes, 50,000 votes, like hundreds of thousands, like lots of paper, more than just those ones under the desk, lots of paper was faked, and that all this thing was faked, and that all these people faked it?
Man, China has a massive
There's
amount
a great
of
article on
reasons to-
Saturday Night Live where they did a show and they did Sports Max, and they said that 200,000 Jets fans had signed an affidavit that the Jets won the game, and that the Jets didn't have any reason. Why would the Jets fans lie about this? It's absurd, man. It's a self-enforcing cycle of propaganda. You put the information out there. Plus, they're already ready.
You could say the same thing about Biden. You could say the same thing about the Biden cap.
Except he won by 7 million more votes. He won the popular vote, and he won more states. And that the amount of votes that he won the states by is greater than the amount that Al Gore won. So again, it's not as close as the Al Gore election. In the Al Gore election, the Democrats didn't lay down and violate the rules of the Senate to have a fake challenge. Like, the challenge isn't even valid. This is the challenge of were the votes 20? We sent you 20 votes. Did you get 20 votes? We got them. This is a ceremonial counting, and they're having a challenge. That's how you can tell they're violating democratic norms. This is, at a very core, democracy is a debating society. We have our ideas, we have our debate, we have our vote, and at the end, that's what decides the debate in public policy. Then we have another vote 4 years from now or 2 years from now. Both sides have to be collegiate. Both sides have to be having a debate. And what's happened in the past 10, 20 years, especially with the great gerrymander of 2010, is that the Republican side is no longer interested in the debate of ideas. We're not having a debate of ideas. We're having a debate of who has the right to vote. And they think less people should have the right to vote so that they can win all the time. Again, it's naked Machiavellianism. It's naked power worship. And it's the kind of thing that leads to kings and dictators. And history will show you this. You don't have to take my word for it. You can go read the history yourself. Every time it slips and you're like, Napoleon just wants to be emperor because it's a cool hat. Let him have his cool hat. I mean, he took it from the Pope, he put it on his head. He went out and conquered Europe, killed hundreds of thousands more people. But he wanted a cool hat. Oh, that Hitler guy, he just wants to be Chancellor of Germany because you get a cool hat.
So did you actually go through and look at the evidence? Did you have a look at the evidence, or did you just turn a blind eye and say, no, it can't be? Because everything but Trump. Everything but Trump. 49
court cases. 49 court cases thrown out. The Supreme Court case thrown out with a single piece of paper saying they're not going to look at the case.
Yeah,
so,
but
yes, I had experts look at
China is powerful enough
to the information from the China.
Yeah, do you think China has enough resources
throwing out random propaganda things that they put inside you, man? You just
no. This is just purely speculation. Let's say we live in fantasy land here. Do you think that Trump has been going after China? He's the only person in the world going after China. Everyone else just bows down to Chinese.
South Park went after China much more than Trump.
The CCP.
And South Park, the TV show, and the National Basketball League both went after China. They canceled their contracts. They took a big hit for it.
Yeah,
so I would say they've done way more than Trump has to China.
Yeah, they took a big hit, right?
Yeah, and Bolton's book made it pretty apparent that he backtracked on China, just pretty much in the same way he did with Kim Jong on the Rocket Man stuff.
Yeah, so the actual substance of what you're saying, Trump is bad for China, is not true. I mean, as far as I've heard, China and Iran both had a we don't care what happens in election policy. They were just kind of hands off, let it happen, roll the dice. Whereas Russia, for the second time in a row, had a very big deal about what happens with the election. And you've seen it already as Putin backed off and acknowledged the Biden administration recently, as having a different policy. Recently, Putin said he passed that law saying he could be president for another 10 years or whatever. But just after the election, that again went so badly for everyone, just after the election, he said, oh, I might not be president anymore, which again, we've seen before with Medvedev. Putin just keeps running things wrong.
But Putin would be like, oh, cool, you rigged the election well. Good on you, man. You did it. Well done. You won. Like, he doesn't care how you win, as long as you win.
Well, that's what I'm describing. That's the power of these people. That's what they're into. They're not into ideas. As we've seen, one of the big ideas for conservatism is that the deficit is too high and that the government has spent too much money. And the other side of government spending is taxes, which another name for that is revenue. So a typical conservative would say, let's increase revenue. Let's, decrease spending. Let's get this books in order, right? No. They just spent and spent and spent. They gave away all the money in the tax cuts to the billionaires. And then now when it comes time to give the money to the people, suddenly
the Democrats do the same. But you had the massive spending under Bush. You had the massive spending under
what's different about the Democrats?
Democrats, both of them.
What's different, Josh, is that the Democrats say they're going to spend money. The difference is that when the Democrats say, we believe in government and spending money, they're honest about it and they do it. The problem with the conservative party, at least in the United States, is that when they say they're deficit hawks and when they say that the debt is the most important thing, and then you put them in charge, they don't do it. I don't know what it would be like if we had less debt, if we had less spending, if we actually had a physical foreign policy. I don't know if that would be good or bad because it's never happened. You can just look at the history. It's never happened. It's the same thing where when they're in power, spend as much as you want. When they're not in power, don't spend. It's that hypocrisy. It's that changing of the statement that just makes it impossible to have this discussion and goes back to what I'm saying. One party is Machiavellian. They are cutting out people from voting. They're reducing polling places. They're adding barriers to voting, illegal, unconstitutional barriers like poll taxes and other things, to make it harder and harder to vote because it's not a debate of ideas. But ideas are not popular. The results of the ideas are not successful.
But the reason why statistics,
no one supports them, like trickle-down economics, complete failure from the 1980s.
But hang on a minute. The notion if less people vote, then the Republicans will get in is I think flawed, because if you have, for instance, you have a poll, right?
Historically, again, just with the number of people, more people are Democrats. If everyone voted 100%, more people are Democrats, it's over, Josh. I'm sorry, the numbers. Okay,
but
you have to give me the numbers. The numbers are just there.
Yeah, but those numbers
is not about.
That's not how statistics work.
You can't say to someone, "Hey, I'm going to cut your capital gains tax." No, your average McDonald's worker doesn't care about that. You have to woo them in with some other ideas, like other people are killing babies. And then that gets people excited for moral reasons and religious reasons. Then once they're excited and you get into power, then you cut everybody's capital gains tax. And everybody says, what has that got to do with our baby plan? And it doesn't have anything to do with it because it doesn't matter because they only care about power.
But that's not how statistics work.
Machiavellianism. And that's always bad. People in school, they're like, oh, Machiavelli's cool. Machiavelli gets things done. The ends justify the means. Fuck everyone else. And that's all fun and games when you're in school and you're having academic discussions and you're like, I'm a right wing, fuck everyone else. Eventually that comes back to you because to someone else, you are everyone else and they don't give a fuck about you. And that's what Machiavellianism teaches. That's what these negative ideas teach. That's what Ayn Randianism teaches. That's what any of these things that separate people from each other, making them individual and weak and easily manipulatable, and destroying the idea of a collective and a working together society. This idea that Ronald Reagan said, the government is not here to help. This destroys any attempt to work together, whereas in reality, sometimes the government helps, sometimes it doesn't help. It's a point-by-point basis, and we need to try it out. We can't just give up the idea of working together because that leads to separation, which leads to warlords, which leads to victory for warlords.
But that's what they want you to think. You're totally brainwashed into that.
Society is. We're in a social contract. It happened before you.
I never signed it.
Offend to it. I know you object to it, but the reality is it made your birth possible. It made it so there wasn't warlords going on outside the door and they didn't.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
Society made it possible Society is a complicated thing that's difficult to understand. It takes a long time to think about. Most of us don't have time to think about it. So it's easier just to say like, oh, we'd be better off if we were back to hunter-gatherers. And
yeah, but that's not true. That's just you projecting. If we didn't have government, we would then have warlords and people throwing Molotov cocktails and total anarchism.
That's what history shows us. The breakdown of government.
But history's also shown us if we have government, we have millions of people dead. Millions of people. Government basically had the biggest amount of death and murder is from governments. Private murders pile in insignificance to government democide. Like to insignificance, millions of murders of governments to their own people, killing their own people. That's what democide means. So it's ridiculous to think that we are so much more enlightened because we have this monopoly on force, on the use of force, the monopoly on power. And I agree. Of course, the government sometimes do good things, but if someone comes up to your face and goes, give me money, don't worry, we're going to make schools and be able to, give kids an education. Is that a good thing that they're pointing a gun in your face and taking money? Well, they're doing a good thing with it, but they're still holding a gun in your face and forcing you to pay that. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a very...
Your analogy is that they're holding a gun and that it's all transactional and it's all one single transaction. Another reality is that they use the shared roads and they use the shared electricity and they use the shared gasoline infrastructure. And
I use the shared internet and I pay for
the shared manufacturing infrastructure
and I want
the shared shipping infrastructure. And they did all of that so they could order the guns, so they could get the bullets, so they could get the car made of many pieces from many places, so they could get the gasoline from other countries, so they could drive on the roads made with the gasoline, so they could get to your house.
I hear the screams of thousands of libertarians say, not the bloody roads.
Well, it's a fact of the thing. You guys can't build anything. Like it's.
I agree. There's a middle path, isn't there? There's a middle path.
The middle path is there, and that's what the problem is. It's not a gun. It's society coming to you.
The free market can build telephones.
I let you talk. Let me talk. Society comes to you, and they come to your door, and they say, "Hey, we built all these roads, we built all this science, we have all these doctors, we have all this medicine, we have this common market for you to be a part of. We have all these systems that you can interface with or not interface with. You don't have to buy stocks. You don't have to be part of our system. You don't have to go to a doctor if you don't want to. But we want you to chip in."
And that's the great thing about being in the Bitcoin overlay. You can avoid, if you want to, that entire system.
And you can be like Ayn Rand and be like John Galt off in the cave. Or you could be like me and have your TV that works. You have your electricity that works. And you can have your
and your Apple Mac that you've been buying.
Yeah, well, the heat turns on at your house. How does the heat work at your house? Like the heat works at your house through magic. Like electricity works through magic.
Through the free market.
You want to have a fireplace in your room again? They just did a study on fireplaces. It's actually poisoning you. So if you want to have, old-fashioned, old-timey poisoning fireplace, you don't want to have electricity, you don't want to have internet, you don't want to have cable television, you don't want to have television and options and choices. And even the idea of making a movie is a very socialist activity. All these people working together to serve the story. If any of them says, I want to be a rebel and have my own story, generally that breaks the picture. Improvisational, like what you want, a world of jazz and everyone can play their own tune and no one plays.
I want a world of
that's chaos. It's absolute chaos. And at first you're gonna be like, this is funky new jazz. No matter what happens, explosion noise, dead people, blown up hospital, whatever. That's jazz, man. This is jazz. And then eventually you're gonna be like, I'm tired of jazz. I want to go back to a more structured form of music. And you're gonna say, whoa, we destroyed all structural music because taxation is theft. We destroyed all the roads, we destroyed all the hospitals, we destroyed all these interconnected systems.
Why would you?
They're really complicated. They're really complicated. All of these systems.
The free market is the most complex.
The free market is only one of mankind's inventions.
Do you think the television
mankind has invented other things than the free market, and mankind's invented controls for the free market? Mankind's put stops in. We don't have child labor. All these things are very complicated. And the problem with complicated things is that I can't dumb them down to a bumper sticker.
Child labor. I just don't buy anything from a company that does stuff with child labor.
It's not enough, man. Some people need those things. Some people can't afford more expensive products, and they'll have to buy the child labor products. and the market will continue. The market doesn't fix itself in that way. And again, we know this because mankind studied the market. We created the market. We studied the market. We invented controls for the market. We had people that said there should be no controls. And again, at the end of the day, all of these extreme positions are better replaced by a more middle of the line gray position where you take things as they are stoically, and you attempt to learn from each thing, and you attempt to experiment and tweak the system until it succeeds. A lot of people still have this, let's throw the baby out with the bathwater. Maybe chaos will be better for us this time.
No, it's
And
not.
I just don't think that you want to roll those dice. I don't think
It's enlightened slowdown, a reduction of the state. The state only grows bigger if they just pass more laws and more laws. They never take away laws. When was the last time they said, let's remove these laws?
They removed the laws on machine guns in the United States, and now we have more machine gun killings. They allowed them to expire. So, and also by you not participating in that system, by you not integrating and interfacing with democracy, there's never any hope that it'll improve. Your issues are not being brought to the front.
That's not true.
You're not a part of the political discussion. Your only
treat
idea is to destroy the political system and start with a new political system, which is a hypothetical exercise when in reality, destruction has costs.
Yeah, of course. No, I would never want to destroy the state. I would rather just.
But it's so much simpler. It's so much simpler to say, I fiat, the state is destroyed, let it be done. And now the state's destroyed. Now I fiat that we're all warlords, and it's much better now because we're individual warlords. And that's great. But when a town gets wiped out, when they rape Nanking again, and the women and the children, and they burn down the building,
strawman arguments that are just,
and there's nothing you can do. There's no code of morality because we've broken all the shared codes because we can't share anything, and we don't have
anything. Thomas, this is
shared ideas of morality. We have shared ideas, just like with the democracy.
A pencil gets made.
Shared ideas with the democracy that after the vote, one side would win and they would govern. And that was the point of the democracy. Once we lose these shared ideas, we lose these ideals, which again are very socialist to share ideas.
Okay, so in your perfect world, then, do you think a world government would be
back?
A world
back to the old ideas, and the old ideas are a lot more like Greek ideas, where you have to be kind to visitors and stuff.
So, do we need a world government?
They might rob you.
Do we need a world government? Because we have anarchy between countries. So, do we need a world government?
I think we need more people taking responsibility for themselves and more people working together. I think we need more people understanding the butterfly effect.
The free market.
The world is very complicated and very interconnected. And so, for example, let's say the British example of Brexit. Brexit, let's say the Brits want to fish. They want to fish their ocean till there's no more fish. They want to go 100% on it. They want to kill all the fish.
And once the fish,
everybody in Europe, they could say, hey, EU should have some of those fish. Russia should have some of those fish. America, Canada, Newfoundland, Greenland, all these other countries and other places, they should have a right at some of those fish. But the British say, no, 100% of the fish, we're mining them all.
Yeah.
Do we need a government to work on that? Do we need a system to solve that problem?
Well,
it seems pretty obvious.
EU boats that have the sludge trawlers that literally scrape the bottoms of the ocean at the moment.
Well, it could be on the other side as well, as a hypothetical argument. I mean, it could be the EU destroying all the fish.
Yes, sorry, it was a hypothetical.
The British. Well, I'm agreeing. I'm fine with it. But the British could be wanting to save the market, and because there's no higher global fishery to go to, the British don't have anything. So, as far as if we're talking about hypothetical world organizational structures, I think that, again, first of all, butterfly effect. We're all connected. Whatever you do affects someone else, whether you can think of it or not, whether we understand it or not. It's always there. And once we start doing those, go ahead.
The more the state intervenes, the more the state intervenes and dictates and supports people with social security and the like, the less personal responsibility they're inclined to take. So that's where the kind of libertarian and what I think you called social constructs. What was the?
Well, I would agree with that, and that's also based upon a negative view of humanity. If people are bad and they will destroy any system you put them into, then you do have to have a system that controls them. You have to have a negative system. Whereas if people are good, and they will improve any system you put them into. And again, the truth is in the middle of these. It's not 100% bad nor good. But the idea gets out there where this 100% bad is pretty strong in what I'd say would be the neoliberal, the people who created our current ruling and controlling structure, and as well in the libertarian side. I think they would both say, sadly, that people are 100% bad and must be controlled or checked at all times. Whereas I think the answer is more in the middle, which is more complicated to deal with. Again, we were talking about this 100%ism with veganism, with vegetarianism, with Bitcoin, with going in and out of the market, with hodling. It's a lot easier to be 100% on something. It's a lot harder to be in the middle and to have that gray area, to have a flexible system that could have someone come along and say, this person's very good, they add to society. This person's very bad, they don't add to society. Society needs to have a flexible result to them rather than having that negative result like a scanner darkly, where the scanner thinks you're bad all the time.
But government is
in Westworld.
You see, government, you are forced to be in a government. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. You have to be.
Our lack of intervention and our lack of involvement with
I don't mind.
Allow it to get out of control like this. The extension of personal responsibility, butterfly effect, that we all take responsibility means that yes, we need to check these government systems, but we have to check them in a reasonable way. In the current situation, for a Star Trek metaphor, there's a virus loose on the ship. Captain Picard has ordered us to stay in our quarters to avoid spreading the virus. It's pretty straightforward. Yet, because of the distrust of the government and all these things, a lot of people are not staying in their quarters. They're spreading the virus, so on and so forth. So the plan's not working. So perhaps Captain Picard's being said that, oh, you should, coerce them. You should have a negative punishment.
How do you know it's Picard and the Klingons haven't faked that?
Again, that's why you got to be involved. All of this says that you can't take your hands off the wheel. I love Ralph Nader. Ralph Nader made a quote once where he said, I hear a lot of people saying that they're not turned on to government. Well, the lesson of government is if you're not turned on to government, the government will turn on you. So anytime that we've had this, and I go far out, I'll go 100%, I'll go Sam Harris with you on this. Sam Harris, cool guy. I met him once. He signed my book. He wrote this book called The End of Faith. And he said that as a philosopher, and we're talking philosophically here, talking about religion, we're going to get in trouble. As a philosopher, Sam Harris said that we should have a conversational intolerance for religious ideas in like a scientific concept. Like if I'm going to say how much does an atom weigh, and you say that it weighs 10 angels on the head of a pin, I'm going to reject you and say, give me a scientific answer, right? We're talking science. If you want to talk metaphysics, things we can't prove, let's talk about spirits and feelings, that's fine. But science, we got to go forward. Business, we got to go forward. We got to get rid of a lot of these old-fashioned ideas. And to me, this talks about the idea of having an adult and a grown-up society versus having a bunch of morons watching TV, right? Adult and grown-up society, West Wing, it's advanced citizenship, right? You got to be involved. You got to be on your congressman. You got to know who your congressman is. You can't just imagine it and give it up for another system. Oh, Arthur, I got to keep it down. It's trouble. But these other systems, you can just imagine. You can imagine who's going to be in the next Marvel movie. You can imagine the next television show. You can relax. You don't have to take responsibility for anything. The world would just go along as it is. And that's kind of what I thought before 9/11. I was like, oh, I know there's like evil people and all this stuff, but I'll just go along with my life and just let it go.
But in the markets, you can do that. I can say, hey, I don't care what Samsung does next with their phone. I won't care. They'll come, they'll bid something, and then they'll say, oh yeah, I like the way it's going, or no, I don't like the way it's going. I'm going to go an iPhone.
The market's not like democracy though. Democracy, we had to be involved in. We had to be active participants in the system. And so many people became inactive, whether they became inactive because they want a brand new system, like you're saying, whether they became inactive because they prefer to live in a fake reality of just caring about money or just caring about television, or just caring about family, or just ignoring the world. Again, Lord of the Rings, the lesson of Lord of the Rings is you just can't stay home. Like if they stayed in the Shire, evil came to the Shire too. You have to go out into the world and fight evil, is what he's saying. And he's talking about World War I. So yes, you have to go out into the world and fight evil. You have to take on these things. And too many people stopped taking them on. They said, political, I don't get political. I'm into my sports team. I'm into my Rotary Club and my family. I don't get political. Or other people said, like you're saying, Josh, that politics is a waste of time because the system is so terrible. And that's any of those choices gives control to the system, gives control to the people currently running the system, and gives control to
control is the
only way to check their ideas is to go out there into the world of ideas and have ideas against their ideas.
Well, the reason is they've stolen a whole bunch of money, and you need to tell them how to spend it.
Battle of ideas anymore. We're having the battle of who can vote, the battle of how we count the votes, the battle of jurisdictions, and should the places with lots of land count as much as the places with lots of people, and these kind of things. We're having structural arguments. We're not talking about the ideas anymore. And that's when it starts to break and come apart. And the lesson I want to leave everyone with for history, because we are going to end here, we're not going to fight with Josh forever. The lesson that I would say from history is that I would rather live in the ascension of the Roman Empire than in the decline. In the ascension of the Roman Empire, you can be a businessman. You can sell spears and you can make profits and you can have a wife and you can have family and slaves and all the things they had in the Roman times. And you can live it up as a Roman or as a slave or whatever. It's different things for different people. But in the decline of the Roman Empire, outside forces are always coming in. Your spear factory in Dalmatia was conquered by barbarians. You lost your home in Gaul because barbarians. The road broke down between here and France. You can't get home on your carriage anymore. You don't go out of the city anymore. All of these things start breaking down, and your life as a Roman is always getting worse from outside influences.
Well, I've got to say, I have never had a death threat from the free market. I've never had a threat of being kidnapped by the free market and being put into a cage. I've never had, the only time I've had threats is from the state. And I would rather have less of that nasty big beast that you cannot control, no matter how much you talk about it and fight with your family about it. You can't really control that beast. And the only reason you want to stay on top of it and everything else you said before, which is a valid point, you definitely need to stay on top of it if you do have a state. But the only reason you need to is because they've taken a whole bunch of the money of society, and you've got to tell them how to spend it. Why do we need to tell them how to spend it? Why can't I spend it or you spend it in the right direction? Hey, we want to set up a school. Most people do. Let's set up a school, right? It's really not that hard to do, especially with some of the cryptographic stuff that we're coming up with now.
Sometimes when you're younger, you'd rather spend all your money on fun, but if you put 10% into the schools, it would work out later on when you had the kids. But you can't learn that when you're younger. You need the older people to tell you that and to teach you that. A lot of this has to do with when you come on.
Maybe you have a store really fun.
Or if you just have to reinvent the wheel every time a new generation comes on the planet. And I just think we do have generational knowledge. We have wisdom. We don't always get it right away. So sometimes we have to wait for the wisdom. And it's that process of everybody coming on, new people on the spaceship, new ideas. And then later on, they're like, yeah, there's a lot of people on the spaceship. We should really work together. And the sooner we can get that thought there, and then we can discuss the working together, and we can discuss the plan.
Corruption always bubbles up. Corruption always heads up to power. The bullies always head to the top, and then you have to control the freaking stupid bullies who are there again, even though you just gotten rid of them. There's just better ways of doing things.
Don't let those proud boys bully you in the street, Josh. But Arthur, I think you're still with us. I want to have Arthur say one more thing if he's with us.
Yeah, man.
Il doc ko hab sosil cook.
I don't know what you're saying now.
It's something in
Klingon.
In Klingon. Yeah.
Oh, it's much more beautiful in the original Klingon.
It's a very powerful insult. Your mother has a smooth forehead.
That would be very unfortunate if you were a Klingon.
I love it.
Anyway, ding, ding, ding. I declare this a fair fight. And in the final round, by knockout, just because he spoke a lot, Thomas has it.
Yeah, I talked over Josh until I won.
And Josh, we'll just lick our libertarian wounds and come back and give him hell some other time.
Yeah, we'll do it some other time. Hey, I love you all, and please enjoy these ridiculous gains, and yeah, say hi to your mum for me.
And let's keep having this discussion. Let's not like turn this off and get all negative on politics. Let's keep talking about it. And I'm just looking for you guys to be more involved in it. I think you would like government if you got more involved. I think there's a lot we could do together, and a lot of cool ideas out there. Not rejecting the ideas.
I'm just going to build cool shit
together. So if anyone has any extra Bitcoin lying around, like a 0.04, you could donate right now to my fundraiser. I'll buy a laptop with a better keyboard. Not the most exciting fundraiser in the world, but if I had a little bit, that's what I would spend it on.
Is there a Lightning?
Yeah, there's Lightning Network at Tallycoin, tallyco.in/s/PK9RS8. I don't know that anyone's going to type that, but if you go to the Tallycoin thing, it's got Lightning there. But you could just donate the whole 0.04 right now. Shout out to AR Forgsgren in the chat. He just got here late, and he's finished DS9. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Great show. There's also a lot of politics in there. There's even some just incredible, really thoughtful episodes about race in the United States. Not what you would expect from a Star Trek TV show, but really thoughtful stuff. And they use the N-word. It makes everyone crazy. But yeah, check out DS9. Check out Voyager next. I think you're ready. Voyager's another one, gets better in the end. It wasn't so great in the beginning, but it gets better.
I'll tell you what, The Mandalorian, where I kind of enjoy the production of it and the graphics, but the acting and the storylines are truly appalling.
Well, no spoilers. I got to go watch season 2 still, but
okay.
The visuals were fantastic. I loved season 1, and I like what I've heard about Mandalorian season 2, but I'm avoiding it still. But yeah, I just need to break the bullet and bite it, or bite the bullet and watch it. But also, I loved Cobra Kai. If you guys aren't into Cobra Kai, I wasn't like a diehard fan of the Karate Kid movie or anything, but they made a TV show about the characters after the Karate Kid movies. There's 2 seasons of it that are already out that are fantastic, and I absorbed the 3rd season the other day, and I won't spoil it, but I'll just say that it was great. I thought it was perfect.
Wow, it just looks so cheesy. I didn't watch it.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, there's parts of it, like certainly there are parts that are cheesy, but like I like the part, just in general, it feels like you're watching an 80s movie, and some of the beats are like really extreme. You know, it's obviously it's a movie. You're watching the most exciting day in their life, the most exciting week in their life. It's extreme, but no, I loved it. I love Cobra Kai. I love the 3rd season. Big up. But I think we need to head to the end. We're going to hit almost the 4-hour mark here. So it's good to hang out with you guys. Thanks to everybody. Arthur, thanks for calling in. Dan, everybody else that called in. Thanks to everybody in the chat for chatting up with us. And it's been good hanging out. We're trying to do these shows more often, not just because it's Bitcoin's birthday, but just because I'm back home and I got my microphone and stuff so I can have fun doing shows again. So be sure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe down below, and join us for the next show on the World Crypto Network. If you're looking for something to watch right now, like Josh was saying, I would suggest that Spinks Chat interview right here on the World Crypto Network. They're talking about podcasting 2.0, some really neat stuff where you could tip people at a certain point in the video. You could have discussions at certain points in the video. They also had a really neat idea about spam protection. They said if you had to pay like 100 Satoshis and you put your comment out there, and if your comment is not marked as spam, you get your 100 Satoshis back. So you see? So if you're a good commenter and we're having a nice discussion, I never take your 100 Satoshis. But if you're a bad commenter and you're spamming my discussion, it costs you 100 Satoshis every time you do it. So just that idea right there can be done with Lightning and smart contracts and complicated things. But I like that idea. I thought it was super cool.
Cool, right?
So,
Yeah.
Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. Until next time, bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye.